Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday Football Show. We will keep you up to date with all the action across Great Britain, with the emphasis very much on Scottish football. It is the final weekend of football across north and south of the border, and I'm delighted today to welcome you to our final Saturday show of the season. Alan Ruff, Gordon Smith and Frank McAvenny, as ever. Three well-kent faces with us here to take us through the next 4 hours. Of course, it's the bottom half of the Premiership in Scotland already underway, 12:30 kickoffs, and the goals have been flying in. We're going to talk about the playoffs. We'll look ahead to the top end of the Premiership in Scotland, which takes place tomorrow, and the Barclays Premier League as well. So, with the bottom end looking at it, the goals are flying in. Alan Ruff.
Yeah, they certainly are. I mean, it just shows you, when the pressure's off, that players can relax a wee bit, and most of the games seem to be end-to-end stuff, and that's why you're getting the goals.
Yep, Inverness leading at the moment Dundee by 3-0. Gordon Smith, as you can see. Kilmarnock 2-2 with Dundee United. Partick Thistle 2, Hamilton 2. Of course, Aberdeen defeated by Hearts on the Thursday. But at the bottom end, I think it's one of those situations now that everything's been determined. These players are just playing with a freedom. It's what you call a gimme weekend.
It could be that kind of thing, but there's also a little bit of pressure, Peter, on some of them. Some of them might be playing for contracts, some might be playing to try and keep their place at the club. Maybe some of them are playing to try and impress other people who are watching them. So there will be a little bit of, you're never are without pressure in football, but the main pressure is certainly off them. Although I think the Inverness Dundee game's interesting because they're fighting for that 6th spot. Albeit, it's nothing, no great honour to be 7th in the league, but they're fighting there for that position, 7th, because both of them actually are sitting in more points than the team above them, Ross County. They're sitting in more points, and they can maybe even get above Motherwell as well if they were to pick up some results. Albeit everyone thinks it looks stupid when you show the league table at the end of the season and there's people in 7th and 8th have got more points than 5th and 6th. It doesn't do a lot for the game. But as I say, the 3 previous games between the two teams this season have been draws. So that is quite interesting that Inverness are giving Dundee quite a hammering at the moment, 3-0.
Yeah, if anything, Mac, the Kilmarnock game has, something to play for Lee Clark, because that's another warm-up game, a competitive game before the playoff, which will be against Falkirk.
Well, it's going to be a hard one again, because Dundee United have got a new manager in, so the players at Dundee United are going to try and impress, as Gordon said. They've got to try and impress the new manager to see if they can get another years out their contract. Kilmarnock want to win because to keep the momentum to go into the game against Falkirk, and everyone thought, I think even certain people down at Kilmarnock would have thought they were going to play Hibs. I mean, I certainly didn't give Falkirk the chance at the beginning. I tipped Hibs to meet them, so all credit to Falkirk. They've done a great job, and Kilmarnock at the moment they're on free for the playing. They've been playing good football, Peter, but they're letting silly goals in, and and Falkirk's a team that they could snatch that, because we've seen it last night. They're getting goals from everywhere, really.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot to discuss as far as that dramatic championship or premiership playoff game last night. I think lots of people thinking it was going to be Hibernian, but Falkirk were fighting right to the death. You can interact with us on that if you're a Bairns fan with a sore head, can't believe the night that you witnessed at the Falkirk Stadium. Then give us your thoughts at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter, facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy, and we'll be reading out a number of your tweets as we interact with you throughout the afternoon. Not too many games on this afternoon, but we will indeed keep you up to date with it. And just as I mentioned about Kilmarnock, and Macca said they're letting in too many goals, it's Kilmarnock 2, Dundee United 3. You see, the goals are flying in from the 12:30 kickoffs in the bottom end of the Premiership. There's more to come. We're talking Premiership playoffs next. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday Football Show. I mentioned prior to the break that the goals are flying in. Oh, it's just raining goals at the moment on a lovely hot summer's day. Dundee United now 4-2 up against Kilmarnock. It's probably the only ray of sunshine that the United fans have had this season, Ruffy, because this week has been a club in turmoil, but they've got the goals today, something to celebrate at the end of a week where Stephen Thompson's been getting it in the neck. They brought in a new manager. They changed their kit launch because there was going to be protesters. They've had a public relations person who threatened to quit after only 7 days in the job because of the unrest with the current board.
Yeah, there's obviously lots of bad things going on behind the scenes. We only see some of it, but I think it's probably a lot deeper than that, you know, and I think more and more will come out. But as far as Ray McKinnon's concerned, the players are concerned, they'll just want to do it on the park, and they're doing that today. And it'll be encouraging for him to go in there and see what he's been left with, because he'll have to wheel and deal in the close season to try and get some kind of quality back in there. But as far as Kilmarnock's concerned, it's not the way you want to be. No. The results you want go into a playoff, and I'm sure obviously Falkirk will be there at the game today watching it, and the defence is absolutely shocking.
Harry Souttar scoring for Dundee United, 4-2 in that game at Rugby Park. Elsewhere, Inverness 4-0 up on Dundee, and it's 2-2 between Partick Thistle and Hamilton. Let's concentrate on last night's events at the Falkirk Stadium. It was dramatic, to say the least. In the end, right at the death, if there's ever a better time to score a goal to win a playoff, it's surely Bob McHugh's winner into injury time. Last kick of the ball seals Hibs' fate and sends Falkirk into the playoff against Kilmarnock. Here's what Peter Houston had to make of it.
Willingness to go that extra yard that gets us the result tonight, because we could have sat in it, took extra time, left our centre backs back to park, but no, we want to go for it right for the start, right to the end. And no, for the first time we've done it at St Mirren away, we've done it against Rangers, been 2-0 down, could have been 4 or 5 as we know. And they never know when they're beating this team, and all credit to them for that.
Well, there's a man who summed it up. You play from the start right to the end. That was the decisive element in that game, Ruffy. Peter Houston's boys just didn't think about playing for extra time, possibly penalties. It was take your chances when they come. Yeah, you've got to keep going right until the end. They had the momentum for the last 10 minutes of the game, so they were trying to get that winning goal. I think Hibs were trying to see it out and take the extra time and see what happened. A better chance with an extra 30 minutes, and that's what they looked as if they were doing. But again, poor defending at the third goal. You know, nobody dominant enough to just go and say, right, I'm having that ball coming into the box. Everybody sort of looked about and waited for somebody else, and nobody reacted, and it fell to the boy, and he took it quite nicely.
Yeah, great finish, wasn't it?
Yeah, Keating scored 2, Gordon, but I mean, I had a look from a couple of angles at Luke Leahy's cracking goal. I'm not so sure the goalkeeper could have got it anyway, despite his weight.
I think, he was waiting a bit too long for the shot, that's true. But I think there was a situation where he maybe was a little bit unsighted too, but there was people in front of him and it was coming past him. It were 2 great goals. I mean, the second and third goal for Falkirk were tremendous goals. And you've got to give them credit. I mean, most of us thought Hibs, because Hibs are the bigger club between the two. Peter Houston's mentioned it before, resources, they've got the resources. And in general, there's not much between them, but you have to give Falkirk credit because they did finish above Hibs in the League too, albeit it was very tight. But it's not as if it's a team that's come from a lower position. They were second in the league. They've got through.
A bit of arrogance with Hibs in the last couple of weeks. I thought, you just got that. They were just, they were going to do it and they were going to get to the Premiership, and I just thought, the players and the manager Alan as well. I thought it was, maybe he was trying to take pressure off the players by taking it all on him and saying we'll do this and do that. But I thought the players started believing it, and rather than going out and doing the job on a pitch, they just thought they had to turn up, I think.
I don't think Falkirk would necessarily have too much to worry about. The first game of the season in the league, Peter, at Falkirk, they lost 1-0. It was a very tight match. Hibs got the win there, and Alan Stubbs had mentioned about the fact they'd beaten Falkirk, but the next 3 games in the league were draws. Then the first leg of the cup was a draw. So between the two teams was practically nothing anyway. And on the night, Falkirk took advantage again and got the winning goal. And you've got to give them great credit. I mean, they've now got a match against a team, an off-form team as well, Kilmarnock. It's not as if Kilmarnock on a great run today is another sign. Peter Housen's at the game today, and he'll see a few faults in that Kilmarnock team as well.
I mean, Alan Stubbs won't want to talk about that penalty thing in the first leg, because it obviously looks like sour grapes, but we certainly can. And what a turning point that was, and the whole aspect of the two games. Obviously, they've got to score the penalty. To go 3-1 up, you know, and then to go to Falkirk and be 2-1 up, you would have said, you know, that's done and dusted.
Well, I have to say to you guys, I don't want to deflect away from anything that Falkirk achieved, because I thought they played really good football at Easter Road. At times when everybody was looking towards Hibs, who became at times predictable in the match. Certainly, you know, put a better fight back in the second half of the game. Again, Falkirk, no panic at the Falkirk Stadium, and eventually get the winner. But in the cold light of day, in the next couple of days, I fully expect Hibs to, if they've not already, lodge a complaint with regards to the penalty, because I don't think we can get into a situation, Ruffy, where you allow clubs to suffer the loss of hundreds of thousands of pounds on a decision that I haven't heard anyone suggest that was not a penalty.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think everybody's seen it. You can interpret it whatever way you want. You know, you could say it wasn't intentional. That could be the case. But the point of the whole matter was he touched it with his hand, and we've seen penalties being given for less than that. You know, so you know, it was just an instant reaction for the guy's hand was down there and it rolled on the ball. So yeah, you're right. You know, and it's a costly mistake. And as we'll see in the coming days, that Hibs, like every other club, will have to start redirecting where they're going to go next year.
But what we talk about in terms of the decision they've made about bringing in the TV evidence, Peter, and it's another good case to say exactly why it should be there, because as you say, an incident like that can be disputed and corrected immediately, makes a big difference in the game. A penalty kick, they might not have scored it, but it still was a penalty, and 3-1 up, as Ruffy said. You know, it's a massive change. So this has to come in.
I believe during the season, it levels it out. You get things against you, and you get things for you. But when one-off games like this are really important games like this, they've got to have something, because
you see,
the
funny thing is, and the great thing about this programme is we're strong enough in mind not to agree with each other. I think that's a load of rubbish with regards to it evening it out. And the reason why I think it's a load of rubbish is because you're talking about you're leaving the season open to the laws of probability. Oh, well, they get a penalty then in that game, we might get one, it'll all even itself out, you all get the points. This is one game. This is one game, Maka, which has cost this club.
That's what I
you know, again, probability. Would they have scored the penalty if they'd got it?
Exactly.
Again, ifs, buts, and maybes.
They scored one last night.
But I think video evidence, Gordon, on this, bring it in, 30 seconds, bang, that's a penalty. The one thing, the element of it that I think is really disturbing is he rolls the ball in a different direction with his right hand. The left hand coming forward with his momentum is debatable. You're pretty harsh to give him a penalty for that. But the ball with his right hand is rolled in a different direction. And the referee he's 10 yards away looking straight down the barrel of the gun.
Absolutely. Can't believe he didn't see it. And as I say,
that's the other thing, you don't get a chance to hear the referee because they don't want to speak to you, and I think that's awful as well.
But can I ask you something, Maka?
You must have seen
What's he
that.
going to say?
Well,
nothing you can say other than I didn't see it.
Says that
I didn't think it was a penalty. That's all he can say.
Slaughter him.
Correct.
You know,
that's what I'm saying, and that's why in my opinion,
standard has dropped in so much in refereeing. You know, you can argue, and referees can come on and say what they want. The standard for when I played, I mean, we thought they were bad when I played, but when you look at them now, they were magicians. They were absolutely brilliant when I played, considering what.
But I don't know how exactly going to do it with the TV evidence. Whether it's going to be you have to appeal it. You know, the actual team appeals it, or is it a fourth official? Because a fourth official might decide himself if the referee didn't see it. It might be the game might have played on before that he even sees a replay of it. You know, the game could have been on in another 2 or 3 minutes. So you have to have a situation as well, I think, where the technical area, a team can appeal something. Immediately they appeal it, the game stops, and we go, right, okay, let's look at it. Do you know what I mean?
You're going to become like Americans. You can't do that. You can't stop games all the time. It's just become
not all the time, but
you can't do it.
But what I would say was, what I did suggest was that maybe a team's allowed 2 or 3 challenges per game.
I actually, I don't, I mean, I can understand where you're coming from, but Macca, the game is moving on and it's bypassing old traditions.
Yeah.
Now it's a situation where it's maybe not the multi-millions that we're talking about down in the Barclays Premier League, but certainly up here as well. And the evidence I think, you know, video evidence, whether it be in the top flight for big I've had a look at that. You'll need to change your decision. Bang. He then changes
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
You know?
Why, they've got the earphones in, so why don't somebody sit and watch it in the stand and see, you know right away when you've got it, and we all know referees can make mistakes, but when you're watching it, you just say that was a penalty. As simple as that. You don't have to give an excuse.
No.
The guy says that was a penalty and just give it.
Yeah.
And that way, if he changes his mind, he changes his mind, and it's done in 1 second. You're not stopping the game to look at somebody. Just the guy just says that was a penalty.
Yeah,
and you can make excuses
that's
after
exactly
it.
what will happen, Macca.
Well, I don't mind-
it takes a button to go back 30 seconds. I mean, if he says it's not a penalty, in his ear after this guy has looked at it, you go, stop, penalty, end of story.
The technology will do. I mean, you see it in the cricket. The cricket just now can wind it back and forward, just in a button.
Yeah.
You know, slow motion. Could you get that a wee bit slower? Could I look at it for that angle? Could I look at it for that angle? And it takes 10 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, at the end of it all, Ruffy, you have a Hibs team now back in the Championship again. You know, there's one match coming up which could flip the whole season on its head. I still maintain Alan Stubbs could go down in history as the manager who delivered the first Scottish Cup since 1902. That would eradicate the pain, maybe not take it all away, take a good proportion of it, and they go to fight again.
Yeah, I would have to say at this moment in time, I can't see that. I just can't see them lifting themselves after the disappointment of this. He'll do his best, and the players will go out there and give a shift. But if Rangers were to score first in that game, the heads would go down, supporters would turn on the team. It would just be a horrible, horrible day unless they actually go about and they score first. And I just, at this moment in time, I just think they're losing goals far too easily. And I think the way Rangers are playing just now, I think they'll capitalise on that.
The only aspect that they'll not be pressurised though for the cup final, because they will now certainly be underdogs. You know what I mean? Nobody, I don't think anybody's saying, no, I think Hibs are going to win the cup. It's all Rangers.
Do you think they're going to get up for it? After,
well,
I mean,
they can go into more relaxed.
We could argue about this all day. You say the Scottish Cup was the main priority for the players, but for me, the players would have wanted to go in the Premier League. They'd have wanted to win the Cup as well, don't get me wrong, but their promotion to the Premier League was their number one choice. And then next week they say, yeah, we'll go and win the Cup as well. But now that's gone, I think it'll be hard to lift the players,
I think you're right, Macca, on the basis that we had this argument with you earlier. I think the only thing that we were veering towards the Cup on was the history, the tradition, the monkey on the back, this constant barrage of you haven't won it since 1902. But now I'm with you guys. I don't see how they lift themselves out of the gutter, because that's where it is. The other big problem here is when you don't qualify for the Premiership, suddenly players start to reassess. Clubs start to reassess because of their budgets. There might be players that just want to leave. There will be players going back from loan periods. Here's what Alan Stubbs had to say about the players.
I'm more disappointed for the players and the club as a whole. If I'm being honest, it's a really cruel way to lose a game, any game, but to lose it like that, is obviously disappointing.
I think a few players will want to head out somewhere else, don't want to play in the Championship, or do you see the nucleus of them staying, Ruffy?
Yeah, well, I thought I read an article saying that he had most of them signed up. I think the one big question would be, has Liam Henderson seen enough to say, well, I want to stay here? But he'll have to assess whether he's got a future at Celtic. And certainly, if he fancied when he was doing there. He enjoys being at Hibs as a club. He'll be one he'll maybe trying to get to sign on. But apart from that, I think most of them are signed up. They will lose 2 or 3, yeah. But and he'll want to add to that as well. But I think big question marks are against him and all, you know, because of Alan, who has had a relatively successful season in the way he's operated, there might be some merry-go-round clubs come available and his name might get mentioned, and then he might have a decision to make.
Well, let's run for the Bolton job. Is it?
Well, I mean, that's all speculation. You know, I always treat that with a pinch of salt, there, Macca. I mean, who would want to join Bolton right now, going down a league, and you know, they don't necessarily have millions to get them back up? I have to ask you this, Macca. Just on that basis, if we're going to be brutal about it, do the board, you know, Leanne Dempster, Rod Petrie, do they just look at the assessment, the resources, and say, no, I'm sorry, you failed?
Well, he has failed. You know, as you say, if they win next week, then they've got that monkey off their back, but they've also got something that they can build their hopes on for next season. But if they don't win the cup, he's failed. I think he's failed big time. He's had that many chances. You know, and Peter Houston, have got to give them huge amount of credit, because he's kept saying, we're in this. You know, and to be fair, I thought Alan Stubbs and the team, I thought they disregarded Falkirk. I thought they were arrogant and thinking we're just going to get it, and we're just, you know, if it comes to it, we'll just win the playoffs. That's what Alan Stubbs says. Yeah. And I thought, that's wrong, you know, to do that, and, you know, as if we're the better team. They might be on, but Falkirk has proved they weren't going away, they were stubborn, and Peter kept saying, you know, we're in this.
And here, in the flip side of that, is definitely a case, so I'm going to look at some of the scores today, but just on a final point on this, is definitely a case where I think a number of clubs must be looking and thinking, what is our strategy when we can overlook Peter Houston and what he'd achieved before? He's gone to Falkirk almost to take a step back to try and reinvent himself again, but he has galvanised that club.
Oh, he definitely has. I mean, he's got them, as I say, now they're now equal least defeats in the league with Celtic, because Celtic lost during the week, which meant they had 4 defeats, the same as Falkirk all season. So 4 defeats Falkirk had. Celtic had only 3 until Wednesday, but now they get 4, and so for him to have the least defeats equal for the season is tremendous. With a team with the resources he's got. If he gets them up into the Premier League, you know, we were talking about it earlier on, he probably, if you were doing the vote again, he would probably be manager of the season. I think so, manager of the year, if you were doing it again. If he gets that team promoted, then he deserves it. But you think about next season, if they go up and Kilmarnock come down, you're going to have a championship with Kilmarnock, Dundee United, Hibs, St Mirren, Dunfermline. They are teams that have been used to being like top class teams, so it's going to be a good championship next year, isn't it?
Isn't it great that we've had that many different permutations, Ruffy, on potentially who deserves to get the manager or player of the year? You know, if he gets promotion, he deserves it. If Mark Warburton gets a treble, he deserves it. I mean, it's been incredible the way you can look at this right to the last weekend, which is what you want.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate the way things are, that we can't wait until the end of the season. We can't wait until everything's finished, and then when you're making a decision, it would be clearer. It'd be much clearer, you know, because you've given a lot of permutations out there. The one thing that wouldn't be, I don't think Alan Stubbs would get it, even though he won the Scottish Cup. You know, it just shows you how important it was to get promotion, to be part of that deal. So yeah, you're right. If Falkirk were to get promotion at the end of the season, that there would be 4 or 5 names, and then you would just have to make a decision.
Yeah, here are the full-time scores from the early kickoffs today. Of course, the bottom half of the Premiership in action on the Saturday, the top half in action tomorrow. Inverness, Cally Thistle 4, Dundee 0, Storey, Devine, Draper and Richie Foran. Nice to see him getting on the score sheet, albeit from the penalty spot. I'm sure there was a little bit of sentiment added in there. Kilmarnock 2, Dundee United 4, Higginbotham and Obadiah for Kilmarnock, but Durnan, Murray with 2 and Suter getting the all-important goals for Dundee United. It's not really something that's going to satisfy a bunch of angry fans wearing tangerine and black. And then, of course, Partick Thistle 2, Hamilton Accies 2, Doolan and Amu scoring the goals, and then Brophy with a double for Hamilton Accies. What do you make of those results, Ruffy?
Yeah, the interesting one's the Inverness one. Obviously, there's 3 players playing at Inverness who are going to be Dundee players next year. It'll be interesting to see if they played and what kind of shift they put in. But it certainly looks as if they have been honourable to the club, who they've been there 2 or 3 years and put in a shift.
Did you think they were going to be dishonourable on the day?
Well, yeah, you know what I mean. You keep saying, you know, I think what was it we said? Why would you play a player who's on loan for somebody because he's going to that club?
I think at this time of the season, if you look at the stats in these games, there'll be about 3 tackles in 3 games because it's the end of the season.
And the thing is, they're not denying Dundee anything.
And people are saying, I'm going on holiday, I don't want to go with a broken leg, so leave out the tackles. It's one of them. There's nothing.
They're not denying Dundee anything today. If by beating them all they're doing is they're going above them, and that's Inverness going to finish 7th in the league now, and they're actually now on more points. They have Inverness now got more points than Motherwell have got, and Motherwell got Celtic today. So you know it's
you're and this is why I loved you throughout the season, Gordon. You've been absolutely magnificent with the stats element. And I think it's to your eternal credit that you know I appreciate that because I do the same type of research myself.
Same as being Ruffy.
Exactly. I wonder. I often wonder if maybe you were the type of guy, and you can maybe answer this yourself. If you were the type of guy who worked out how many steps it took you to get from the house to the car. And were you the guy that Jack Nicholson portrayed who actually avoided the cracks in the pavement when you were walking along it?
I do sometimes count them.
It is magnificent.
You don't turn the jars in the house, so the labels are off.
I'm not quite that bad.
No. Colour coordinated shirts, no.
I don't go in the kitchen, so I don't know.
Hold on a minute. Just as everybody was warming to him. How do you spell Neanderthal again? There you are, that's it, I've written it down. The other thing I was going to say to you, Robbie, is, I mean, Gordon makes a valid point on the point system, but it doesn't matter. It's top 6, you'll finish where you are and you'll get money according to your placing. These guys can have more points because they played the bottom teams.
Yeah, I think the Paul Hartley will be trying to get his head round is how they've collapsed since the last day they had the chance to get into the top 6, and ever since then the scores have been absolutely dire. You know, that was a thing I'd be worrying about if it was at Dundee, because you'd have thought the players would have still tried to put in a shift, and they haven't. As far as Kilmarnock's concerned, that is a club that's totally, after today's result, that fan base will be totally giving the players no room whatsoever when they come to the playoffs, and Falkirk could use that to their advantage, obviously, if they go up. You know, these Kilmarnock players have got 2 big, massive games in their hand.
Can I ask you something, Gordon? You obviously an ex-Kilmarnock player. Lee Clark, we can now look at it. He's got a big game coming up against in-form Falkirk. Was it a mistake to hire a man who may well have had credentials of experience down south, but didn't really know anything about the Scottish game, certainly didn't know anything about the players and the style up here, to come in and try and transform a side in such a short space of time?
I think it's difficult. It's difficult to say whether it's a mistake or not, Peter, but the thing about it is, my belief is, and I've spoken about this before, it's like a chemical reaction between a manager and a group of players. You never can tell who is going to work with a certain group of players. Even very people with a great reputation go somewhere else. I think it's more of a risk that you bring the game of the I'm sure that's the way deal with the club. make this happen. I'm sure he said all that kind of thing, and they've gone, well, that's exactly what will be the Falkirk games. That's it. And if they stay up, then it was seen as a success.
Surprised. I mean, I remember that was Lee McCulloch not? Did he not do well when the interim?
I don't think the desire was there from Lee
I don't think
McCulloch
so. I
to
think
take
he
it.
made it clear he wasn't.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Because I wondered myself. I
Because he
thought
would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Because they won a couple of games under him, didn't they?
Well, they drew a game and won a game, and I think you could go into his coaching
well at
position with
Ibrox
his
as
head
well.
held high. Yeah, absolutely, to get the draw in the first place. But I now look at it and I say, okay, he's got these games, and I'm not being critical of the fact that Kilmarnock should pull the trigger on it, because I think Kilmarnock have got far greater problems at boardroom level with a disenchanted fan base with what's happening with the board. But the one thing I would say here, Maka, on this is, if he stays next season, he's got to try and somehow build a team. The lessons learned are Jackie McNamara wins 1 in 9, gets the bullet. Jim McIntyre was on a dismal run, but Roy McGregor realised that he had to be given time and money and resources. Kilmarnock have got some big questions to ask now if this doesn't go well in the playoff.
Yeah. Well, as you say, I'm a great believer. Things are going to go wrong at some point, and you've just got to believe. The chairman has picked Jim McIntyre. The chairman picked him for a reason, and they were going into a run of games. They went winning, as you say, 1 in 9. So, but he's believed in him, and he's turned it round, which is absolutely all credit to him. Kilmarnock have been chopping and changing, and I just think, as you say, they're in turmoil for. I don't know who makes the decisions, whether it's one man or whether it's a board. But whoever it is making the wrong decision, because I've got great credit with Lee Clark coming up. He doesn't know the game, and he certainly doesn't know the Premiership games. Championship, he's going to be in trouble next year, because
Yeah, okay. Ruffy, just before we hit the break, a word for the two teams that I think deserve tremendous credit. Martin Canning is there at Hamilton Accies, has defied a lot of critics who suggested they'd be heading down. Partick Thistle as well. I mean, I had Partick Thistle relegated at the start of the season. We obviously offer our opinion. And Hamilton Accies, I thought, were in the playoff. Look at the both of them. They are now looking at the Premiership next season.
Yeah, and all credit to both of them, as you said there. Alan Archibald has been down the bottom half of the season for the past 3 seasons, but he's had the ability to get them out of the mess right at the end, and he's done it again. And Martin Cannon, we know the form they were, 1 in 16 or something like that. Any other club would have probably walked, but they didn't. And they dug in there, and you have to give the players credit, you know, for digging themselves out of there, because they looked as if they were on free fall as well.
I think the chairman says, doesn't matter if you get relegated, he's still going to be in the job.
Yeah.
So the players know that no matter what, you know, he's going to be in the job next year, so they give that little bit extra fight. I think for the manager, I think that was a good piece of psychological warfare, if you like, on the players, because to say the manager's still going to be in charge next year if you go down, then the players are going to do that a little bit harder for him.
Yeah, a bit of psychology working there, and let's hope that psychology works now, because the great news is I'm backing Maka, Gordon Smith and Ruffy to be with us after the break as well. If there are 3 empty chairs, it means they've decided to jump for the sun on a Saturday afternoon. We do have 2 games that we're going to be keeping an eye on, certainly in Scotland, and one of them is Queen's Park against Clyde, and the other one is East Stirlingshire against Edinburgh City. We'll keep you up to date with that. We're going to review the season, talk about every manager, every club, and we'll also look towards the key games tomorrow as well. Saturday football show. Alan Ruff, Gordon Smith and Frank McAvenny are with me here for the next 4 hours, all the way through until 6 o'clock. And let's not forget the midweek show will take you right through the month of May, June and July as well. We've got the Homeless World Cup coming up too, which I'm really looking forward to. So lots to discuss and lots more interviews and some very special guests coming into the studio midweek as well. So look out for that. Stay with us. You can catch the programme at 7 o'clock and the repeat at 11 as well, Monday to Friday. I think Arsenal in the Women's FA Cup final are leading Chelsea by a 1-0 at the moment. You are up to date with what's happening in the Women's FA Cup final. There's the Scottish Cup final to look forward to, the English FA Cup final for the men. We'll also discuss the European Championships on this programme, Champions League and Europa League final. So much to look back on, so much to look forward to this Saturday afternoon. Stay with us, interact with us at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter and facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy. And we'll certainly look back on what has been a very interesting season indeed in Scotland. We'll discuss the 3 games which are taking place today in the bottom half. We'll look ahead to the other 3 games tomorrow, where Celtic will the Premier League. There are 2 big games in the playoffs today, Ruff. Of course, Queen's Park and Clyde. Gus McPherson's side almost certainly with the edge in that one.
Yeah, so if you can go home and score 3 goals, playing at home, Clyde might get a good surface, but I just can't see them turning that at all. I think if Queen's Park obviously were to get the first goal, I think that game would be dead and buried. Obviously, if it goes the other way, it's game on, but I still think Queen's Park will win it.
Isn't it amazing, Gordon? We're talking about a period there where quite a number of chairmen were looking to young, inexperienced coaches to come in, but Gus McPherson in there at Queen's Park, building a side every season with players coming and going. If he gets them up a division again, I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable.
It's incredible. I mean, and they just sneaked into the playoffs as well. As you know, they were level points with Annan and just got that 4th spot. And the thing about it was that they also finished below Clyde, and yet I was looking at it, and they've played each other now 5 times, and Queen's Park have won 4 of them and 1 draw, and they won every time they played them. Even at Clyde, they won their game. So today it's going to be at Hampden, but I think that you can't see past Queen's Park because they're strong side. The only draw that Clyde did get was at Hampden earlier in the season, but overall, Queen's Park have looked a better team in the matches between the 2 clubs.
How invaluable is it, Macca, when you've got someone like Gus? He's been over the course on so many occasions. I mean, in one of the papers today, they were looking back on how he was playing under Tommy Burns at Kilmarnock, and they managed to escape on the final day of the season playing there. He's been part of a cup-winning side. He's obviously had 7 years where he kept St Mirren in the Premiership. This is a guy just with a wealth of experience.
Well, yeah, and you wonder why he's not had a better job. I thought he'd done ever so well at St Mirren, and with very little resources, nothing that you could go out and buy a decent player. He brought everything like he's doing there. There's no money whatsoever there, and I think he's done a magnificent job. And if anyone deserves to move up and get a chance, just get a chance at a decent club, to get a chance that somebody can say, there's some money, go and buy some players and let's see what you can do, because he's never been able to do that.
Yeah, the flip side of it is you wonder what the future holds for Barry Ferguson if he realises he's still in that division with Clyde.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for me. As I said, they've got 2 goals to pull back, but he's getting credit. I mean, the thing about it is a lot of people are saying, he's done a good job, he works hard at it, he's got them in the playoffs, he's got his team up there, challenging near the top of the league. So he's not exactly had a bad season, despite the fact that they've got through to the final game here, and it's going to be tough for them. But I mean, they had a good win, because they're the team that beat Cowdenbeath, wasn't it, Clyde? So they knocked Cowdenbeath out, and Cowdenbeath are a higher league team sort of thing. So you've got to give them credit.
Yep, absolutely. How do you see it going, Ruffy?
Yeah, I think Queen's Park with the home advantage, and obviously they'll come away for that game with Clyde with obviously the 3-1 win, and they'll know exactly their strengths and weaknesses, and if they can go win 3-1 there, they would think they would do it again.
And East Stirlingshire against Edinburgh City. I saw a report this morning with Edinburgh City playing at the old Meadowbank Stadium. It's still there, still going strong. I mean, I think Meadowbank long gone from there. Edinburgh City trying to get into the league. East Stirlingshire, I mean, I know that the board are adamant that they're going to continue if they have to go into the Lowland League, but they don't have a ground, they're sharing with Stenhousemuir. The whole structure doesn't look good if they should lose this.
No, I have to say that the Lowland League is probably where East Stirling should be. I think they've had long enough, to get themselves in some kind of order. But again, it's just through the politics of football, ownership and people owning bits here and bits there. But maybe going down to the Lowland League might be where they have to go to start again and get some support behind them, because not having your own ground is it's just not the way to go. And unfortunately for them, they've East Stirling, they have now got a club who actually want to be in the big time. I don't think that was the case last year with Brora. I don't think Brora wanted to be promoted, so I think Edinburgh City will give them a bit of a game today.
Just before we go to break, Peter, I just remembered it was Queen's Park who beat Cowdenbeath.
Yes.
Not Clyde. It's Queen's Park who beat
Well, I knew that.
I should have jumped in.
I'm glad you didn't embarrass me by
Don't worry about
correcting
it.
me.
I mean, if that's your first mistake of the season, that's the first time Ruffy's been a hard-hitting pundit. East Stirling should be in the Lowland League, knowing full well he was upsetting 80 people in the entire country. Ruffy was hard-hitting. There's more of that coming up after the break from Ruffy. This is the new Ruffy now. Ask him a question, get a direct answer, instead of the last 32 weeks of fudging it. Let's see if he's more forthright in his opinion coming up after the break. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday Football Show. All through the season we've had reporters out at key games giving us the latest news as the ball hits the back of the net. Not too many games to look forward to this afternoon, but one of our reporters, Ruffy, I'm delighted to report, is sitting in his house with his feet up watching the programme. Derek Clark has been, just on super form this season, giving us punditry of the highest order, telling us who was going to win, giving us all the latest interviews as well. He's been top drawer.
Yes, he has, and a lot of humour as well.
Yes.
In most of his reports, which have been good. And he has been.
Yep,
he's been on the ball.
He's been on the ball.
We waved him. Hi, Derek.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, we did wave to Ali McCoy's mum. You know, there are people meeting his Narsons just to wave to them. It's like interactive telly. Scratch and Sniff coming next year on the telly as well. But Gordon's there, been there. Derek Clark's been there with us as well. Des McKeown, Laura Brannan, and of course Craig Turnbull. All the guys out there getting the interviews and keeping us right up to date. And that will continue next season. Hopefully you will show us your support as we get bigger and better. The other aspect of this programme is reacting to stories that emerge not only through the week but on the day itself. And news coming in that Joey Barton's been at Murray Park, Gordon Smith. That would be a coup for Rangers if they could get him in.
Yeah, he's an experienced player. I mean, he'll be 34 by the time the season starts in September. So he's not the youngster, but as long as he's kept his fitness levels are good, he's continued to play at a high level. Obviously, been at Burnley this season, and a successful season there too. And he's been playing regularly. So you just wonder whether Matt Warburton thinks they need an experienced player in a centre of the park, somebody who actually can talk to the other players and get them going. Maybe he thinks they lack that. They've got a lot of young players, Rangers, but maybe he thinks somebody like that just sitting there and holding and talking to people is what's required.
If anything, Macca, that would be a clever signing. Gordon mentioned experience, but of course, we've all been banging the drum and looking at Rangers as far as youth, but that element going up a division.
Well, the thing is, I know Joey, he's a decent bloke. I know he's had a lot of problems when he's drinking and all that, but he's great for the boys running about him. It'd be great for the people, the youngsters at Rangers, because he's got a wealth of experience. And the boot, he's not a bad player. So, I know his agent, we all know his agent, Willie Mackay, so it wouldn't be too, far-fetched to think that he will go to Rangers. And as we all say, there's a lot of players, as Gordon says, a lot of youngsters coming through at Rangers, and he might just be the talisman that they need to look up to, so they can keep, and keep progressing in what they're doing. And Joey will just sit there in midfield. And what he'll do is he'll just sit and let them go and play. And he'll just do it. I mean, he can play, don't get me wrong, but he will sit in that midfield. He'll be like the father figure in midfield, if you like, but he'll be like a general. And that's a job that you can do very easily. Yeah.
Just in case you didn't know, it was nice of Macca to tell us about his drink problem. We weren't actually aware of that, Ruffy. That's great. All I would say, Ruffy, is don't tell him a secret. It's the only thing you've got to keep from him.
Everybody goes out with Macca, obviously he's got a drink problem.
They'll go home.
Usually with your home.
Yeah.
But Ruffy, Joey Barton hasn't signed yet because he's still had discussions with Burnley. But again, you can understand the strategy from Mark Warburton now realising that when a chairman, when a board say they need 5 or 6 players, when the manager agrees with them, I still think Rangers need 4, 5, possibly 6 signings that are starters.
Yeah, well, I would think if he was going there, it looks as if the boy Ball's going to go back then. He was a wee bit indecisive of what he was going to do, but he might go back to his club and they might say, well, we'd like you to go another year. So, yeah, I mean, there doesn't look as if there's a lot of money getting spent on that one, so we keep on saying, and the supporters keep on saying, what kind of wage bracket and what kind of fees are going to come into the club, and that certainly looks as if there's not going to be any fee at all, so maybe that's the way the Rangers are going down the road, but it certainly looks, in any of the games I've saw at the end of the season, he still looks fit enough.
He's definitely fit enough. I mean, that's one thing that he has done. He goes out and, he's one of the few footballers I know that likes training.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, what a grind it must be for him, in excess of £10,000 a week. Interestingly enough, I mean, what sort of money would you be looking to pay a Joey Barton, albeit it would be out of contract?
Well, that's it. In terms of the budget idea, you might think, well, because you're not spending any money, there might be a set of money put aside. But he would obviously have to get big wages, because you can imagine where he's been.
You look at if you would pay money for somebody like Joey Barton.
That's what I mean.
Because he could be that thing.
Yeah.
So you would.
If you still think he's a value player of a few £1,000,000, then you put that kind of money aside, because you're going to have to pay him a huge salary, because there's no doubt about it that Burnley will be in a lot higher wages than any team in Scottish football will be on.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before we start to look ahead to the games coming up on Sunday, and there's certainly some mouth-watering games north and south of the border. There's so much to get your thoughts on, lads. Reviewing the season, we'll keep you up to date with the two games that are taking place, the playoffs this afternoon in Scotland. We'll give you more reaction from the games that finished earlier today. Of course, Partick Thistle and Hamilton shared 2-2 draw. Kilmarnock 2, Dundee United 4, as you can see there, and Inverness 4, Dundee 0. Hearts, they defeated Aberdeen by 1-0 on Thursday, and as you can see, Aberdeen, Ross County, Celtic, Motherwell, excuse me, Hearts against St Johnstone tomorrow in the final fixtures in the Premiership. Let's look at the review then of the bottom half of the table. So it's Kilmarnock who'll be playing Falkirk in the playoff. Is anybody on this panel going for Kilmarnock to win it?
No.
Not on the basis of that result today. I thought if they could maybe lift themselves with a win today, they would go into the game. But that result, 4 goals against the worst team in the league, and you're going to play a team like Falkirk who are winning games and just beat Hibs, obviously. I think it's Falkirk looking good now. OK,
let's have a look at the table and see where the other teams finished and give our assessment of their performances. So Dundee United, we've already discussed, of course, Ruffy, for quite a long period of the season had Dundee United escaping relegation, maybe in the playoff, and then at one point I was waiting on him saying they could win the Champions League. It was getting that stupid. But Hamilton at the third bottom place. Martin Canning already intimating today, Ruffy, that as well as the conveyor belt of talent that Aki's always developed, he'll now go out and try and choose wisely so they don't get in this situation again. No, I think he'll have identified players that will be coming released. There'll be a lot of players being released with experience, and he'll have to maybe pick and choose, who he's going to get. But I think he's now, or he should identify that he needs a bit of experience in there. I mean, tried and trusted. The players that have been there just now are very, very loyal. They've been there for a long, long time. But sometimes you just need to shake that up a wee bit, and I think that's what he'll try and do. Yep, and as far as Partick Thistle are concerned, Gordon, David Amu is another man who's committed himself to the club. Alan Archibald and Scott Patterson have signed a 3-year deal. Yeah. And I think just reward from a board who realised the difficulty of the job in hand. It is a difficult job. And the funny thing is about it, they were just keeping themselves above the relegation zone, but there's also nothing much between it. See, if you look at the league, you go below. The one I would maybe take out of it now, I thought maybe it was about 3 teams at the top: Celtic, Aberdeen, Hearts, but St Johnstone were on a good run at the end, towards the end of the season, and got themselves into 4th top. But other than that, if you go down there, you can go down about 5 or 6 places, and there's nothing really between the teams in the central part of the league, Peter. Do you know what I mean? So Partick Thistle have only just missed out in terms of being part of the, getting towards a top 6 spot, and that's what you're getting every year now. You're getting a fight between about 5 or 6 teams to try and get in that top 6, and this year obviously Motherwell managed to make it, and they had a great run to get there. Ross County got in, but when you look at it, there's nothing really between them and Inverness and Dundee and Partick, so it's a very, very tight gap, and that's why give credit to Partick Thistle. They've seen what Alan Archibald's done and thought, he's keeping us in there, we're fighting away, we're maintaining our Premier League status, therefore let's keep him longer and give him the chance to build this team. A thoroughly decent guy who understands what Partick Thistle are about, the limitations and what they have to achieve. I think he manages expectation and reality very well. I think so. You've got to do that. I mean, and he's have learnt very quickly,
who he would want to keep, who's not want to keep, and who he can trust and who he can't trust, because there's certain times they were playing really good football, they just weren't scoring goals. Now, we thought that was a panic because, you know, to stay in the league you've got to score goals. But they've came through, and, you know, the boys have done tremendously well to get to where they are, because we thought they were going to be in that fight right to the very end with Kilmarnock Wadad. So they've done well, and the manager's learning every single week. He'll know his players, and you know, and it's a great asset to know that you're going to be there next year and you know who you're going to keep and who you're not going to keep.
Yeah, one disappointment for me, and I think maybe Paul Hartley and Jerry McCabe will share the disappointment, Gordon Smith, is the fact that I thought they were going to be a top 6 side. Yes. They had the firepower, they got the goals. If anything, the back line and the draws killed them.
Yeah, I agree with that. Too many draws. And the other side of it is, we spoke about it before, they were a team that were really good to watch. They started the season so convincingly with the 4-0 win at Rugby Park, but we've talked about it so often this season about the inconsistency of Dundee. You never know what you're going to get from them. You know, one week you know, tremendous performance, hammer somebody. Next week they lose, and that was the problem. I mean, Hemmings had a great season from. He was probably Stewart had a good season too.
I think going forward they were consistent all season. You know, from the front line they were, but you know when you're going forward and you're winning the game, and all of a sudden a goal goes into the back and you think, where'd that come from? And the confidence gets knocked out of you. But I think, you know, the forward line at Dundee have got to take credit because they've done their job all season, I think. They've been, and the manager's been very good to them. He's kept them in there. Yeah. He's kept them in. He's consistently. He's got to sort out the defence for next year, and I think they could be definitely will be top 6 next year if we get defenders.
Well,
a couple of defenders.
You mentioned the forward line, Ruffy. When you look at the team that Paul Hartley decided to put out on the field, you know, at times we were getting excited. 3 strikers: Rory Loy, Kane Hemmings, Greg Stewart in there. I mean, Kane Hemmings scored 25 goals. I mean, he was on fire. He just went through a real purple patch. The question obviously is, can he hold on to 1, 2 or 3?
I would hazard a guess that the boy Stewart will be at Rangers. I think he's the kind of player that they're looking for. I think that will be the price bracket that they're probably working under, and I'm sure the boy would jump at the chance of going there. Hemmings has obviously scored the goals. You know, there will be definite clubs looking out there, but as long as they get decent money, I'm sure Paul will will be trying to identify players that he can bring in, because let's not forget that he's not frightened to get in the divisions. He's not frightened to take a gamble on some guys in the lower divisions, and that everyone that he's brought up has worked for him. So that might be the way he'll go down again, but I do agree with the guys. He needs to get his centre of his defence sorted out. Yeah,
of the 3 strikers, 45 goals between the 3 of them, Gordon. Obviously, the main percentage of them scored by Kane Hemmings. Yeah. If anything, Jerry McCabe mentioned too is that while Stewart may not have chipped in with as many goals this season, he's been the creator of even more. Yeah, that was the point I was going to make about that, Peter, because I think that is what he brings to. He is creative player. And he actually not only can score, he scores good goals too. Hemmings is more just a poacher type of striker. He gets on the end of things, puts the ball in the net. Ideal player to have in your team, but you also need somebody who creates and makes chances out of nothing. And that's where Stewart comes in. And as Ruffy says, you know, there has been talk before that Rangers have an interest in him to take him, and you wonder whether they'll come in and make a bid. But I think he's probably been one of the top players this season. No doubt.
That's about 4 players Rangers have bought since we come in here this morning. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, I don't know about you, Macca, but when you were growing up as a boy, you know, when you're at the period where you're buying sticker albums and you're swapping chewing gum cards and thinking, what, Gordon Smith for Alan Roth? No danger, I'm holding on to that. But I mean, you get excited. You used to rush down to the newspaper shop to look on the back pages to see who was potentially signing for who. I mean, that's the thing that's what makes you love football, the potential of somebody signing, Ruffy.
Yeah, and supporters love it when they get up in the morning and pick up the papers and see what kind of player. I mean, we're talking about Joey Barton. I'm sure the Rangers supporters just now will be having discussions all over the place in the pubs, wherever. But will he come, will he not come? And that's the way it is. I've always said it every season. I would love to, at the end of the season, do a list of who is going to what club and see how many of them actually materialise at the end of it, because, as you know, a lot of people take a stab in the dark. You know, there might be a reason that Joey Barton's and the area of Murray Park. You know, the Castle catch.
I can't think of a good reason why he'd be Murray Park other than
been having coffee.
Yeah, well, I was just about to say, I don't think there's a situation, Ruffy, where you think, oh, I've nothing to do today. I'll nip up to Murray Park and have a look at the thing. But
with my agent.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely, Maka. The other thing, I think you're absolutely right, Ruffy. The one thing, as you go on in this business, I'm almost certain in newspapers up and down the country, what they do is, do you remember the old journalists used to have in Spitting Image? It was the hat on the sheep with the cigar. I think they all go into a darkened room and they just throw darts at names and then pick them out. But the next club in the bottom end of the Premiership review, Inverness Cally Thistle, John Hughes. There was a moment last season when he said, I don't want this to be the high point, you know, the third place finish in the league, the Scottish Cup in the trophy cabinet, and then everything then is but it was. He couldn't hold on to players. He's found it very difficult, losing players again, and you know they finished 6th in the table. Yeah. But I think John Hughes wouldn't have been 7th. I beg your pardon. He wouldn't have been happy with that. No,
it wouldn't be. But as I say, the strange thing is, I mean, I know it's because they're playing lower division teams now, but they've got more points than the 2 teams above them. But and they've had a run, they've had 7 wins in the last 10 games. A tremendous run they've had, and that's the thing about it. I can see there is a level of frustration there, and you wonder whether ultimately he'll maybe do what Terry Butcher did as well and decide there's only so far I can take this team. I can't, you know what I mean? It's limited to what he can get. Even wages-wise, they don't have the. That's why his players are tempted away. Peter, see everybody that goes out of contract. Most of them leave.
Yeah, but it's not really worked too well for Terry, is it?
No, it didn't.
He's not doing anything at the moment. So
he built his reputation there and done well. But John's also won the cup, remember? And
I think I think, to be fair, I think John took it on from Terry. I thought the team was playing better football, and you know, and won it, especially certainly last year.
It was hard for him to take on though, Frank, because when you think about it, Terry Butcher had them second top of the league, I think. When he left, when John Hughes took over. So it was one of those poison chalices you get when you take over from a manager who's been a success. And it didn't work out quite at first, but then since then, he's turned it around again. He's got them going.
Well, I think it's just Terry left, and I think he thought he was going into different things. He thought he'd have got a decent job, and it's not worked out well for him. So at the moment, you know, because he'd be a good manager. I mean, I've heard people say he's good to work under, so I'm sure he wants to get something down in England rather than back up in Scotland.
Just on the point of Inverness, as far as players, I think John Hughes really wants Miles Story's future settled. He's calling on the chairman to try and get players that are already there, some that have been on loan. Can you get them in a deal so that I can rely on, for example, Miles Story, 12 goals this season, Ruffy?
Yeah, well, the difficult thing is, as we all know, at Inverness is trying to attract people up there. You know, it's okay in the back of a Scottish Cup win. You know, players will go, I want to say, well, I want to be part of that club. They're going places, but when you're not winning things, as we've just seen, there's 3 of them jumping ship to go to Dundee. Now, going to Dundee, obviously, it must be a better financial deal, you know, and that's the things he'll be up against, is trying to attract players back to the club when I'm not winning anything. And I just feel that I thought the Dundee United job was a good fit for him. You know, I thought when they were possibly not, Ray McKinnon was being talked about, and we know how things work behind the scene, that phone calls get made. If I were John Hughes, I'd have been letting Dundee United. I might be available for that job now. Because he was
tipped to the side. When Mixu got the job, he was tipped for it, wasn't he?
Yeah, what do you mean he should have said, I might be available? It was blatantly known that he wanted to.
Yeah, but he just signed another deal, Inverness. I mean, this time, when it came round, I thought a phone call. Because he's losing 3 or 4 quality players. You know, Gordon has just said that they're on a fantastic run, but before that fantastic run, they were on free fall. And just as a manager saying, well, I'm going to lose these 3 players, my budget's
Yeah, no, but I think John, there was a lot more to it than that, because I don't know if he'd want to work for the present chairman at Dundee United, because your future's not settled, is it? One week to another, you could be out of a job. So I don't know if
there are certain jobs at the moment in Scotland which I think are, sadly, a poison chalice, because it can have a detrimental effect on your career. Even if you are, a coach of some standing, you would go in and think it's very, very difficult to turn it around. I think, sadly, Dundee United are that club. Some would suggest Kilmarnock are also in that situation. The other clubs have stable boards and have shown faith, which brings me nicely to a situation where if I had suggested to you, Ruffy, at the start of the season that 2 of the 3 major domestic trophies in Scotland would be in the Highlands, you might have looked at me and thought it was not the full shilling.
Yeah, but I always say with the cup competitions, it's not all about form. It's not over the duration. It's winning possibly 4 games, 5 games on any given day.
Yeah.
And all these teams have all shown that they all can beat each other, even the top teams. So I just think winning the cup in our country, is not as hard a deal.
So you want to admit nothing to you then?
No. All I'm saying is, I don't know who Inverness played on the way to winning the cup, but they could have played a favourable draw all the way through the semi-final.
I know
there are cups that you play, you might not even play.
They knocked out Celtic.
Well, that year. Well, that's fair enough, but I'm saying...
What about Ross County?
What else have you done for us?
Ross County knocked out Celtic.
They got a player sent off. If Celtic hadn't got a player sent off, they'd probably have beat Ross County that day. The first 10, 15 minutes.
Come on, Ruffy, come on. Give them some credit, will you?
I'm sorry.
Honestly, you're sounding like a fan.
The first 10 minutes, Celtic looked as if they were going to rip them to shreds, and then obviously...
Never.
I know, because they got a player sent off.
And that's part of the rules. If you break the rules, you get a player sent off.
The point I'm trying to make is you can win a cup by not actually playing anybody.
You can. You can do that, but it still doesn't take away from the fact that every other team's in the cup.
You've still got some kind of
At some
form.
stage, somebody else is beating them, but you have to. It's still. I know you're saying.
Well, who did Gretna beat to get to the final?
They beat no top league clubs. The first top league they played, but you take this year though. You've got 2 teams in the final this year. Rangers and Hibs, who have actually beaten 3 Premier League teams each to get to the final. Do you know what I mean? They've knocked out.
Is this the first time? What was that you were trying to say? If that's the first time in history?
2 championship sides.
Two teams for not for the top league have ever been in a cup together final. But they've beaten each of them. You can't say they've had easy runs, Ruffy, because obviously Rangers beat Cowdenbeath but in the first round they played them. But the Hibs also beat Wraith Rovers. And then they've had to beat Hearts, Inverness and Dundee United to get to the final.
But listen, a lot of people won't notice this, but while I was trying to heap praise on Ross County, Ruffy belittled them and somehow we get on to Rangers against Hibs in the Scottish Cup final. I mean, Ruffy, give them some credit. They've got the manager of the year. He's transformed that club. They've got the League Cup in the trophy cabinet. He's got them in the top 6. I mean, and he's got Liam Boyce who scored 19 goals. You've got Alex Schalk who scored the winner in the League Cup final against Hibs. And they've got a number of really good players. Jackson Irvine, Michael Gardine's had a great season as well. Even Brian Graham's chipped in. Craig Curran as well scored 7 or 8 goals. So he's got a whole collection of players that he's brought together, moulded them into a team who just do not know when they're beaten.
Well, they haven't been like that for the last 7 or 8 games. They've been poor, really poor, since they won the cup. But up until then, they've been fantastic, and everything they've done has been fantastic. But they've been poor, basically, from that day. I can't remember them doing anything.
Well, do you think at the end of the season when the Ross County fans, when the Ross County fans are walking down the street, they'll go, wow, do you remember that season we won the League Cup and we finished in the top 6? Yeah, but we were poor in the last 8 games. I mean, that was terrible.
Ruffy says.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the reasons John Hughes got sacked for Hibs, which I didn't agree with at all. He did a fantastic first half of the season. Brilliant second half. I think he won 2 games and they sacked him. It's about the whole season. Really about the whole season.
You're just miserable this morning, aren't you?
Yeah. Is there some? Did you lose the Ross County dinner and you're not getting it, and that's why you're absolutely hammering?
It's actually still.
Okay, listen. The Scottish Football Writers have awarded Jim McIntyre the Manager of the Year, and I think well worthy of it. I think he's, I'm a big fan of Jim McIntyre, because a number of players that I speak to, Gordon, have mentioned that not only is he meticulous in the formation, in the set plays, this is a guy who puts a lot into the coaching, and he's reaping the rewards alongside Billy Dodds there.
Yeah, he's got a lot of respect for in terms of what he's done, because, as you said, you can't take anything away from it when you've got a team like Ross County. I know the chairman up there, Roy McGregor, is a successful businessman. Yeah. He's got a lot of money, but he's also sensible about what he does spend. He doesn't go over the top with it, and he has to work to a budget. And from having to do that, then he's taken the club to a great level, and to win a trophy there, the first in their history, and get a top 6 spot is a successful season. I know that I agree with Ruffy in one respect, that they've had a bad run. They've had one win in their last 8 league games, which isn't good enough. But once you've, see, when you think about it though, a lot of the times what happens is a team has achieved, but they've achieved their goal this season, getting the top 6. Yeah. So I think they're just they've taken a foot off the gas, no doubt.
And I think, if anything, you're looking at the players there. Again, I think a number of them will be happy. I mean, Liam Boyce clearly has had a great season as well, scoring the goal. So I think tremendous credit to them.
I think, as you say, you've got to give credit to Billy Dodds as well, because we know him, he's an infectious character, and he's up there, and he's played at the top level, so the players will give him respect right away, and he makes the training fun, and he's putting everything into it, and the players seem to be responding to it, which is great.
Yeah, OK, the next club that I want you guys to give us your thoughts on is, of course, Motherwell. Now, I don't want to blow my trumpet on this one, but obviously I've made a few mistakes along the way, Ruffy, but this one I think I called it 100% correct. Mark McGee would take that side away from relegation, and I was almost certain that they would be up there in the top half by the end of the season.
Yeah, which makes it even more creditable, because I thought they were on the slide. I thought they were going to get drawn right back into it, the same as it was the other year there. But he went in initially, and I don't know if you'll remember that we sat here at his first team selection and went, "What are you doing, Mark?" You know, he dropped the boy up front. He dropped a couple of players, and we all sat and going, "What is he doing?" And they got beat that day. But in all credit to him, being the manager that he is, he sat back and assessed where they had to go, and he brought the right players back in, and the run that went on is fantastic.
Yeah, and I think he's paid tribute to a number of players that have come in free from injury, and I'm talking about the experienced players. Of course, we had Steve McManus on the programme earlier in the week, and there's negotiations going on. I asked Mark McGee yesterday if that was if it was a take it or leave it proposal to some of the experienced players, because he's got a tight budget to work on, and he said no, he's more than willing to move, but he doesn't have endless amounts of cash these days. He doesn't have a rich benefactor. And Steve McManus also on the programme mentioned that the players want to try and be as fair as possible.
I think just now it's still early days in the negotiations. The manager spoke to us on Thursday, myself, Stephen Hamill and Keith Lasley. So certainly on my behalf, we've still got a long way to go in the negotiations, but hopefully we can, with myself and the club, we can get our heads together and get something sorted. Like I say, it's difficult just now because the games have still to be played, but I'm sure if the club are fair and I'm fair, then we can get our heads together. If not, then it'll need to be elsewhere, because I don't feel as if that I'm quite ready to retire.
Maka, when you're trying to replace players of his experience, Keith Lasley, Stephen Pearson's got another year in his deal, but that type of player, Scott McDonald, you try to replace him, that costs a bit of money.
Of course it does, especially with McDonald, goal scorer. But McManus has been about, and Mark will know it's going to cost money to keep that. So he'll want to keep these. He'll want to keep the nucleus of the older players because they're great round the club. I think you can't be experienced around the club when the young guys coming in and the older boys giving them a hard time every morning. It makes a fun dressing room, and
that's why we were surprised.
It keeps a great atmosphere and a great harmony.
That's why we were surprised that they were struggling for a while, because through the heart of the team they had a great bunch of, I would say, experienced but top class players, like McManus at the back, Steve McManus there, and then as I say, Lasley, you had Hamill, Peterson. Then you go forward, you had McDonald, even they brought in McFadden. Guys, all these guys in their 30s. I mean, the oldest thing, Keith Lasley's 36, and he still scored the goal last week, still doing a great job. So that's the heart of the team. But the other worry would be the fact is that, you know, are these players, do they still have the fitness level to continue for a full season?
It's not as much
you know?
the fitness levels, do they still have the desire to play another season?
Well,
but Mark will know that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no point in keeping them just if they just want to take a wage.
Oh.
But there'll be players there that will say, you can't play every week, but I want to keep you, because when you do
about
play,
the team, about the club.
you know, when you do play, you're going to make an impact. And Mark will know that better than, you know, you can see every day you train, we can talk about them, but when you see players, you know, getting over, you know, 34 and 33, you can look at them every day and you know whether they can last another season or not. And Mark's not bad at that, you know, because he could never run fast even when he was fit, Mark. But
yeah. Oh, you've been scathing on everybody today, Mark. It's not telling us what the problems are socially with them.
Well, Mark was great, been about the dressing room. Mark played with Mark. Mark was great, having been about the dressing room, even when he wasn't in the team, because he was getting older at Celtic. It was great to have around the team, so he'll know what it means to have players. That's what I mean. It was no scathe on Mark. Mark will tell you, I was a better player, that's simple as that.
Don't forget, one of the things you won't get on this programme is humility. So Mark McGee, I think, Ruffy, you know, you look, McDonald, experienced, 14 goals. Moult, 18 goals. Pearson, 9 goals. I mean, these guys have all chipped in. They've all, as Gordon mentioned there, they've all stepped up to the plate. And suddenly, they had it not been for St Johnstone slipping up against winning against Celtic, I think Motherwell might have finished 4th.
Yeah, again, in the last 2 or 3 months, they've been great, you know, and they've been entertaining as well. And as you said, they're scoring lots and lots of goals. And I think Mark will sit back at the end of the season and say, right, I came in, I did everything I said I was going to do, but now he's got the players to deal with, and he'll have a priority of who he wants to keep and who he won't. You know, he can't deal them all in if they all want to dig their heels in and take his budget up. So he'll have to make some kind of decision of who he really, really wants. And with players, I've been asking players to take a wage cut and possibly a year's contract. You know, players then start worrying, you know, and they say, okay, I'll maybe take a wage cut, but I'm not accepting a year. I maybe want 2 years at the age that the most of them are. So there'll have to be a bit of wheeling and dealing.
The problem you get then, though, is that, I mean, the easiest thing is that the clubs say, what's your alternatives?
Well,
who else will take this kind of money?
To Stephen there, you think, look, there's going to be a common ground here. I think that they want to stay. Mark's obviously, we know Mark, everyone knows Mark, he's a great laugh, but you wouldn't want to cross him, you know, just when he was a player, you just didn't do that. So as a manager, he'll be ruthless in that changing room. But you can just look at Steve McMahon there, they're all wanting to play and they want to come to a wee bit of common sense, and it looks like him and the older boys want to stay there. And if Mark wants them there, then that'll be a done deal, I would think.
Okay, just to keep you up to date with what's happening as far as the playoffs are concerned, I think it's going according to plan for Queen's Park. No goals here in that match against Clyde. As far as East Stirlingshire against Edinburgh City, still 0-0 there. Let's not forget A United take on Stranraer tomorrow in the Championship playoff. But if there's a goal in those 2 matches this afternoon, we'll keep you up to date with it, and we'll also continue to discuss. You can give us your thoughts on Falkirk 3, Hibs 2 from last night. Give us your thoughts on Peter Houston and the players that he assembled there and the job that he's done with Falkirk at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter, facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy. Give us your thoughts on your team, individual players, where it went right, where it went wrong as well. We're going to be talking Scotland squad, we'll be talking Champions League, Europa League final, the European Championships this afternoon. It's a review and a look ahead on our last Saturday programme of the season. We'll also look towards the Scottish Cup final as well next week between Rangers and Hibernian. We've reached that point where I look at the table and I say to myself, 4th position, Ruffy, Tommy Wright. Again, it's a great achievement to get them in the top half of the table. They've finished strongly. Stephen McLean, when he's there, when he's fit, when he's playing on grass rather than AstroTurf, has managed to get himself 15 goals.
Yeah, and they're another team that were doing well, and then obviously they lost Haller and they lost Mackay, and then they went on a wee bit of a slump. I don't think they'd won a game for 4 or 5 weeks, but again, all credit to them. They've came back strong, obviously beating Celtic and other results as well. So I mean, he's done a fantastic job, and you know, I think he is another manager that could go a step above, you know. But I'm sure he's quite happy where he is just now. But another very, very good season for them.
He must have been delighted, Gordon Smith, not to jump ship to Tannadice.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he was now. Yeah, definitely. And as I say, he's done a tremendous job at St Johnstone. I mean, he's also going into the history books as well, as we've been talking about managers who win trophies. To win the cup as the manager at St Johnstone was a fantastic achievement for them. And as Ruffy said, they have had a run. I mean, they won the last 4 league games there, and he obviously playing again tomorrow. They've got Hearts away tomorrow, but they've had a tremendous run, and he seems to get them motivated. He gets them playing, and the players speak highly of him as well, Peter. That's the thing you always get. The players, every time players interviewed, at times you don't need to say much about your manager, but they all seem to say very positive things about him.
Yeah, they're one of those stuffy teams that I don't think anybody likes to play against. They're another team that don't know when they're beaten.
Well, when they're on form, they're one of the better teams to watch in the league. I would suggest, you know, well, the first time I sat up and took notice when Aberdeen, they went to Pittodrie and took 5 off them.
5-1.
You know, and I thought, whoa. And Aberdeen were playing well at the time. So that's, you know, and it wasn't a fluke because they took 4 and that off.
They were on a great away.
Teams, so.
They were on a great away run at the time. I think they were winning nearly every away game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as you say, it's great for a club to, as an ex-player, boys will tell you when you're at a club and you like working for the manager. It's great going in every day and you know, and you just do that wee bit extra. And at the moment, you know, like Jim McIntyre, you know, Tommy Wright, these boys want to play for them. So it pays for a good season. Next season, if they could get a couple of, maybe a wee bit of quality in, then who knows, they could take that wee step further and do a Hearts or Aberdeen and challenge the big boys. You know,
that's why it'll be a difficult one for Hearts, because I mean St Johnstone are very capable away from home, and Hearts obviously had a great result against Aberdeen during the week, right? A good away win. But St Johnstone is one of these teams you can't see past them when they're playing away from home.
No.
They're a real threat to everybody they play against. They get a lot of away results, and you know, and tomorrow they might want to just show Hearts that next season they can go and compete with them.
And it depends what Aberdeen do, because I mean, if we're talking about teams and how they've done this season, I think they're the biggest disappointment to me this season, because they had so many chances. Because Celtic were not playing well, and I don't think Aberdeen will get a chance like this season ever again.
Yeah, well, we're not Aberdeen yet. We're at Hearts now, who are finished third in the table. Let's not try and jump the script here, because if anything, and I think possibly I've mentioned to Gordon as well, Ruffy, I've been singing the praises of Hearts all season. I think off the park, the board and Budge, I think what they've done, the way they've conducted themselves, the way they've taken action against anyone who's tried to tarnish the club's image. She wants to project this family club. She's unveiled plans for the new main stand, which will take the capacity to 20,000. And I think she's deferred payments on cash that she's put in herself. She obviously is going to look for investment again from the fans, to maybe to the tune of about £6 million to pay for a stand that could cost maybe 12-13 million pounds to get it all up and running. But you've got a team there that's finished third in the table. Craig Levine might not be everybody's cup of tea, but guiding and helping Robbie Nielsen, I think they've had a great season.
Yeah, I think we're all talking up the circumstances that Rangers were under and going down to the first division, coming back. I think we all seem to forget where Hearts were. I think Hearts were in a worse situation, you know, that where they were. Obviously, players not being paid wages, and at the really depths of where they were, and for them to change it around so dramatically and to come up from the division and, as you say, end up in third place is remarkable. And everything that's, as you said, behind the scenes, even the bringing in players that are identifying players that a lot of us don't know who they are. We all talk about scouting systems and where are they coming from, who's identifying them, and he's had the mixture of experience, and the youth are still getting it. The Nicholsons and the Walkers are all still getting games, and if they can keep building on that, they will want to be second next year, and there's no reason why they shouldn't.
They've got a good squad, didn't they? They've got a good squad, Peter. They've got a good squad that it's small enough that they can keep everyone happy, if you know what I mean. Whereas other teams have got that bigger squad, you can't keep everyone happy. But Robbie's done. He's juggling it well. He's got a good squad. As you say, Nicholson coming in, and he's not getting in every week, and I think he's a quality player, the boy. But he's bringing him in, so he's keeping him happy.
Yeah, let me tell you right now that Clyde have a penalty kick in the playoffs at Hampden Park. Gemmell's header struck the hand of a Queen's Park player. The referee has pointed to the spot, so this is a real chance now to throw the cat among the pigeons, and Barry Ferguson's side to really turn the screw here. A great chance to get back into this one with a sniff of maybe forcing it to penalty kicks, and they've scored the penalty. So it's Queen's Park 0, Clyde 1. Game on in that playoff, and Scott Linton, the former Dumbarton player, has scored that goal there. You can see it. Queen's Park 0, Clyde 1, now 3-2 on aggregate in Queen's Park's favour. No goals between East Stirlingshire and Edinburgh City. And let's not forget there were more than a few goals in the final games in the bottom half of the Premiership, with Dundee United finishing off their season with a 4-2 win at Kilmarnock. Inverness hammered Dundee 4-0, and it was a share of the spoils between Partick Thistle and Hamilton. We'll talk about the 3 games taking place tomorrow very shortly. So the other thing I was going to mention to you, Ruffy, let's not forget about Hearts. Apart from the recruitment of new players for the next season, which they're already at this moment in talks with a number of players, they sold Osman Sow for a tidy sum, which I don't think anybody envisaged him going to play football in China, and they got a tidy sum for him, and over and above that, Juan Mas chipped in 13 goals, Jamie Walker 7, Dowda 8 goals, and so I think it reached double figures before he left.
Yeah, and even being a goalkeeper, the goalkeeper's been fantastic this year, and at the age he's at, to be thinking about giving him another contract, it just shows you how well he's done, and he's a big part of that team. But you're right, I think that they've got individuals in their team, but I think again he's got moulding them into more of a team ethic there. I think they all work for each other. I think when they have the ability to stop teams playing, they have players in there who can say, right, they're better than us, let's stop the good players playing, and then we'll see what comes after that.
So Hearts third, looking possibly to put in a real challenge. Just on that point, are they a club that you would expect to be in this mix? Everybody's talking about Rangers, Gordon Smith. Do you envisage Hearts being a serious contender next season? I
think they'll be up there challenging. I still don't quite see them challenging for the league title, but I think that a successful season for Hearts and where they can be is to be in that top part of the league and challenging for a European spot. He might be getting them better, they might be up there challenging and might become the second best team. There's always a chance of that. They might be next season, if Rangers come up and get things going, then you're hoping there's going to be a 4-team challenge at the top, at least between maybe Celtic, Rangers, Hearts and Aberdeen all challenging up there. I think that they're the teams with the resources and the players that can actually maybe put in a good title challenge. So I think that we'd want to see that from Hearts, but they certainly are improved. I mean, they're an improved side. Even the team that Robbie Neilson got promoted, he then went out and got some players in, and he's made them better again. So if you keep that continuous development, Peter, then there could be a team next season who will be on a better run, and there could be a hard team to play against.
The biggest disappointment for me this season was that some of the supporters wanting Robbie out, and I'm thinking, what did he want? It's sometimes you've got to think, are these really Hearts supporters that's done that? And
Mac, I have to point something out to you, which I think was a great lesson that Gordon Strachan used to say to me when I used to host a programme where you had callers. Most of them Celtic and Rangers fans were calling into the phone in, and he said, if 3 people call in and tell you I'm a dumpling, does that mean it's gospel? Is it set in stone?
Well, you've got to
what
agree
about the other 5.9 million who haven't phoned in, who clearly might be Gordon Strachan fans? And I would suggest to you right now that there are always going to be 3 or 4 people who, which is their right to decide that they don't like a manager or not, but I think those Hearts fans are in the minority that don't like Robbie Neilson. I mean, why? I know. Why would you? I mean, it's just lunacy.
I know. I think it's lunacy as well, but it's part of this season. That's why I highlighted it. Sorry about that. You don't want to talk about that.
But they spent
Helicopters and all.
it wasn't just but it wasn't just that. I think it was the fact that some of them they'd bought they'd actually rented an airplane to put a banner up. You know, that was the thing. If you don't like him, why spend it? Was it Macca?
He was flying it. He was flying it at the time. Can I ask you then, how can we get to a situation, and this is why I'm really enjoying you being on the show tonight, Macca. A real good ding dong with you. Sum up Aberdeen's season for me.
Disappointing for me. Disappointing. I mean, if they had said at the beginning of the season, well, finish second, that would have been a good goal for them. But I'm going to be honest with you, to come out and beat Celtic twice and not put in, for the amount of times Celtic dropped points, Peter, and maybe on the Friday night they dropped, and Aberdeen on the Saturday, or Celtic on the Saturday and Aberdeen playing the Sunday, and get out and Celtic getting beaten, Aberdeen drop points, and I'm thinking, how many times are you going to fling us away?
Yeah.
Or they could have been really close. I'm not saying they'd have won, but they've not got a better season than this to be really close for the challenge. And I think, you know, on a personal basis, with Rangers coming back and everyone tightening up, I just don't think they will have another chance like this for the next 25 years.
Well, Stuart Millen suggests otherwise by saying that the player recruitment will not be affected by the plans for the new stadium. Obviously, Aberdeen are keen this time around to get a new stadium on the outskirts of the city. Ideal access for visiting fans, for the home fans as well. It looks fantastic. The plans look magnificent. There are training facilities there and a complex for them as well. So you can only take him at his word. I thought Aberdeen, Gordon, I'm going to be brutal about it, I thought Aberdeen were a mediocre side with maybe one or two, half-decent players, special players that could change games.
Yeah.
Am I being too harsh on them?
No, I think I would say that I think on their day they looked a good side, and on their day they could beat anybody, but it didn't happen often enough. And the interesting thing about them was I found that they were, every time when the word was that you're in a position now to challenge Celtic, because Celtic messed up. They messed up as well, and it was almost like as if they couldn't take. I mean, I know we spoke before about people saying we've no bottle and all that, and Derek McInnes, reacted to that. But that was how it looked every time they had a chance, and you only need to look. I mean, Celtic are 12 points ahead of Aberdeen at the moment, right? And the fact is, see the last 5 league games, Aberdeen have lost 4 of the last 5 league games. So they've thrown away 12 points in the last 4 games. So you're thinking they could even have been challenging for the league at this stage, and they could have been going to Celtic Park last week there with an opportunity. I mean, they lost the game anyway, but as Frank said, they'd beaten them twice this season, which didn't happen last year. Last year they'd lost the 4 games to them. So I think they actually threw it away and didn't challenge enough. The interesting thing about the stadium, though, I'm going to go into that, is the fact that where they were going to build before was actually handier for everybody to go, because they were going to do it in the south of Aberdeen, and that would have been easy. You wouldn't have had to go too far. Now it's up in the West Hill area, which was a big oil industry area and all that, and it's going to be slightly more difficult to get up there, but there's a lot more space up there, and a lot of people are moving up. There's a lot of big hotels and businesses up that way now, because that's where the oil industry is, and I think that's a fantastic site. I saw the plans myself, Peter. It looks wonderful, and the training pitch is going to be there. It'll be really good. Yeah,
what do you make of it, Ruffy? I mean, you can see it. I think the big point here is Stuart Milne's just wary of how it all fell down the last time with the council, and he's looking and saying, this is a perfect chance to build something that will leave a legacy for so many fans over generations to come.
Well, it's an opportunity to capitalise on where we are, the one team city, and you've not got a divided support like Dundee, so you would think give them a stadium that they'd be proud of, and obviously with that kind of training facility you can attract better players. When players come up, we're talking about Joey Barton being taken up to Murray Park to show them what it's like. That's what you do. You bring players up, you let them see the facilities, and that sometimes can sway them. I just think they need to just step up a wee bit. I think there was a time when there was a game, wasn't there? If they'd won it, and Celtic were playing on the Sunday, if they'd won it, they would have been a point clear. And they didn't. But I thought the 2 turning points for them was obviously the loss of the goalkeeper. I mean, you say good goalkeepers win you 10 points. I thought he looked the part, and obviously Rooney was a big player for them, scoring goals. These two things, I also would say, I don't think the boy Paulett and Jack performed to the levels that we all thought they were going to do. I don't think they hit any heights at all. And Niall McGinn wasn't the player he was a couple of years. So if they could get 3 or 4 players in, they could maybe take the pressure off these players. You know, then, and a better pool of players, then they have a better chance.
They lost Rooney as well, who was getting goals.
He scored 20 goals. McGinn scored 12 goals this season, Ruffy. Simon Church was a good...
Was there not one year he scored 24?
Yeah, but Simon Church been a good signing. He scored 10 goals, Mike.
I didn't expect that because Rooney was injured and they thought everything was going. But, you know, they could have done...
They were defensively shaky as well, Frank.
The two of them were good. In the couple of games that they got to play together, I thought they looked quite good. So next year they'll be good.
It just shows you how weak their pool was. Rooney got injured and they had nobody.
Yeah.
They had to go and get somebody.
That's right.
You know, they didn't have anybody there that could take his place.
I thought through the centre of defence was also a weak area.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, when you talk about momentum, you talk about confidence, Aberdeen had a chance in October to really hit the front. They lost all 4 games. Celtic won all their games. At that point, you actually looked and you thought to yourself, that's just not the real deal. You can't lose 4 games, you know, consecutive games. It just doesn't. That's not championship for them.
There's a few times in the season they had a chance. There's more than one. You know you're talking about 4 games, but there was more than one of them in the season that they could have, you know, as you say, they could have went ahead, put pressure on Celtic, and they didn't do it. They blew it. And then for the
Celtic were drawing matches. Celtic were drawing. But you see that point Peter's made there. They lost 4 games in October, Aberdeen, and Celtic lost 4 over the whole season in the league. They lost 4 in total. Do you know what I mean? Now the fact that they were still so close is because Celtic were drawing a lot of games, weren't they? They weren't winning their games, and yet Aberdeen didn't take the opportunity when Celtic were drawing a match to then have a win and pull back 2 points at a time. They just failed to do it.
I'm looking here, we're fast approaching half time. It's still Queen's Park 0, Clyde 1 from the penalty spot. Scott Linton has scored for Clyde. No goals in the game. East Stirlingshire against Edinburgh City. The games that have already taken place with the 12:30 kick-off today in the bottom half of the Scottish Premiership. A good win for Dundee United to finish off a miserable season, relegated, going down to the Championship, but they defeated Kilmarnock, who'll be in the playoffs, by 4 goals to 2. Inverness 4, Dundee 0, and Partick Thistle 2, Hamilton Accies 2. We'll be looking towards the games on the Sunday very shortly, but it brings us nicely to the team that will receive the Premiership trophy tomorrow at Celtic Park in front of... Will it be a sellout, Ruffy? Will it be full to the gunnels? I think not, and that is an indication of the apathy towards the team, but more importantly, the manager.
Yeah, I think there's big decisions have to be made over at Celtic Park, and obviously the owners of the club have to make these decisions sooner rather than later. We're led to believe it's going to be within the next fortnight. We'll wait and see if that happens, but I think a lot of the supporters will go along there and seeing the championship being presented, you know, but you want to win the game as well, but they really need to do something, some kind of performance. I mean, there was a defeat at St Johnstone there that just sort of, it just shouldn't be happening, but that's the way it is just now. The interesting thing for me is what kind of reception Ronnie will get when he comes on the park.
Well, I'll tell you, you'll get a nice reception, you'll get a warm applause, and then, you know...
That's it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
That's why they must like him at Celtic, because I do feel that when he, after the game against Rangers, the semi-final, when he was told he was moving on, he should have left then. The club should have said come then, because you shouldn't be there to. Because what happens is you're there to say, "Oh, I achieved a league win," when in reality you say, MD could probably have won the league being manager of Celtic at this season.
Yeah, isn't it amazing though, in the interview with the chief executive in the tabloids in the last couple of days, that he mentioned that. Well, I think, Macca, the point here is, you know, he suggested he couldn't have gone after the defeat to Mulder. I think he could have with a number of Celtic fans, because I think that was the breaking point. I think a number of the fans looked and said, well, wait a minute, it's not the fact that teams can lose in Europe. You know, Neil Lennon lost, I think Gordon Strachan lost in Europe at a time when they were trying to get into the Champions League. It was the manner of the defeats. You can't get to a situation where you lose to Mulder, who spent 7 million. You've spent considerably more, so there's no argument about buying power. But I think over and above that, a lot of the buys, a lot of the players that he brought in, just left the Celtic fans bewildered
Yeah.
by what the strategy was. It was all over the place.
Yeah, and I think that, and I've said it before, I think they're better players than even the style of play that they played. I think they got the system wrong, they weren't playing the right style, and the players underachieved below even what they're capable of, in my opinion.
Two things for me.
Yeah.
There's two things for me. That he couldn't change a game. Ronnie couldn't change a game. He was a lovely guy. But when it was going wrong, you've got to have the ability as a manager to change a game. You've got to change the formation, do something to try and sort it out.
Yeah.
He didn't do that, Peter. He put a player on for a player off. It was the same formation, the same tired formation for me. He didn't have ability. And the other thing was Johansson. Johansson, he kept on playing Johansson, and he brings nothing to the team at this. For the boys' sake, I'd have took him out. Look, give him a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
you know, rest. Put some, because he's got 17 players.
Yeah.
It's not as if he's not got enough midfield players.
Yeah, well, that's another bone of contention for a number of fans. If you look at Ronnie's record over the course of the season, Ruffy, the draws, the defeats, a lot of it failed to make the Champions League, Europa League exit by December, the League Cup, of course, to Ross County, we were there, and the Scottish Cup exit to Rangers really put the tin lid on it for most Celtic fans. What I would say to you, Ruffy, over the course of the 2 seasons, he's won 2 leagues and he's won a League Cup. He's got to be the only manager I know in history to be heading out the door where people looked at that as a failure, whereas other managers in previous decades would have been looked upon as, oh, that's worthy of keeping you in a job.
Yeah, but I think the majority of the supporters have looked at the style of play and the way that they've been winning games. That most of these losses were all in Europe, which was the dominant side, because that's where they want to be. You know, when you've been playing Champions League against Barcelona and Juve and Milan, you get actually just it's expected.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the pressure you're under as soon as you go in there. I just don't think at the initial stage he realised how important it was to Celtic Football Club to be in these tournaments to at least January or February.
Well, the big remit was to improve the young players, and I'm going to be honest with you, that hasn't happened. For me, the young boys have went back away.
Yep, there are a number of players that he brought in and other people brought in as well that didn't quite work out. We will now, after the break, look towards the next Celtic manager. There are more than a few candidates in the running for this. We'll hear from a couple of them, and of course one of them was an exclusive interview on our programme. We'll talk about David Moyes coming up next. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday Football Show, our final Saturday programme of this season. Hopefully you will tell your friends and join us in the new season as well. It should be interesting, not only Premiership, Championship, but League 1 and League 2 in Scotland. We'll also look at the Barclays Premier League. We'll continue our review of the season, looking at some of the performances of teams north and south of the border. We'll start to look at those big finals on the way. There's a playoff final to come between Falkirk and Kilmarnock. Did you tip that at the start of the season? We'll also look to the Champions League final, the Europa League, the European Championships, all to discuss in the next part of the programme. And the reason for our look back and look ahead is quite simply on a Saturday, this Saturday especially, the games are thin on the ground because of the nature of football. The Premier League in England all moved to the Sunday, and the top six all moved to the Sunday here in Scotland as well. So the champions Celtic will receive the trophy tomorrow. We've been talking about all the teams in the first half of the show. Celtic are the champions, and champions that I think most of the fans will be heading there to wave goodbye to Ronnie Dyler. My one problem, as we were talking about it before the break, Ruffy, was anyone can lose games in Europe, not qualify, as previous Celtic managers have found out to their cost. But I think a number of the press conferences that he conducted killed him off as well, because there is a period where you dissect a manager, buy into his plans because he's new, but then he started to come out in press conferences in the last couple of years and say, we can go all the way, we can win this, we can win that, we can win a treble, we can win a double, we can maybe win a single. You know, it started to become ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think in the end, his admission of he found it hard to deal with was there for everybody to see throughout the season. At the press conferences, he looked as if he was caught in the headlights. You know, that he was just out his depth, basically. And I think you got to give him some kind of slack from where he came from, you know, to where he at Celtic. You know, it's an unbelievable jump.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable, and obviously you're not going to turn that kind of a chance up. So I think the people who appointed him have got something to take the blame for as well. You know, the guy would have come in and done his best, but his admission was obviously his privacy in his life had disappeared and all that kind of thing. These are things that you've got to accept is going to happen when you go to a big club.
He would have known that, Bruffy.
But yesterday's comment put the tin lid on it for me, Macca, when he said, you know, everybody wants to drag us down, everybody wants Celtic to lose.
Well,
and I thought to myself, you're not saying that. Somebody else is putting those words in your mouth.
Of course, it was somebody else, because he's not got a clue, to be honest. Tomorrow, for what I've heard, straight after the flag gets done, he's off. He gets the championship and he's off. As soon as he gets the championship, he's off. He's going straight to the airport and he's going straight back to Norway. And I'm thinking, well, that's a bit of rush, you know. Take a couple of days, you know. So, but he's not. He's going straight away, and I think that's terrible, because I don't think he wants to be asked any more questions that could put somebody else at the club under pressure. Yeah, absolutely, and that's probably one of the reasons why Mac is such a vital part of our team here, because his idea of a celebration is stay for the celebrations on the first day, then let it go into the Monday and stretch to the Tuesday as well. And let's hope our end of season party follows a similar line. So more from Macca coming up. We're going to get Macca's Team of the Year, Gordon's, Ruffy's and myself.
Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday Football Show. We always on a Saturday keep you up to date with the goals hitting the back of the net right across all 4 divisions in Scotland and down south in the Barclays Premier League. We'll be looking ahead to tomorrow's fixtures north and south of the border, and of course we will also keep you up to date with the 2 playoff matches in Scotland, and Queen's Park still in the driving seat at the moment, Gordon Smith.
Yeah, still, you know, they're a goal up obviously on aggregate, but you have to say Clyde have got themselves back in it though, and I'm sure they've got a bit of a lift, because at half time they're saying, you know, we're right in this again, guys. We're only 1 goal behind. Pull back a bad result. They got at home, and it's at Hampden Park, and as Frank's mentioned earlier on, that as well, the players will enjoy going there. I mean, it's in good condition just now, isn't it? It's in great nick, the playing surface and all that. Huge crowd as well, 2,000 at the game as well.
Wow.
So, you know, yeah.
Wow.
It's bigger than they normally get, isn't it?
Yeah.
See, 2,000 in Lesser Hampden would be a good atmosphere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I think on this programme we always try and emphasise the need to get fans out to games, and I think maybe you know, over a longer period of time, you know, maybe fans will go and look at Queen's Park and start to just go in there and see what Gus is doing. We want neutrals to get out there. If you get a chance, get out to Scottish football and support it. You know, we've got to be positive about our game, regardless of the fact that we all know that the levels have dropped over the years, Ruffy. We can't hide that fact. We're not going to fudge the issue.
Yeah, but I think for me, football's all about atmosphere.
Yeah,
and
I think
a
so as
stadium.
well.
It's all about the sun shining, as what it is outside. You know, if you go to a stadium and there's an atmosphere out there, the weather's good, people will come out again.
So basically you're thinking we should condense the season into 3 weeks of the year? I mean, where we play 38 games?
No, I think we've already discussed that there are times to play it and times not to play it. All I'm saying is, get an atmosphere at a game. You know, going to a stadium and play 52,000 stadium and there's 1,000 people there, it doesn't. You don't get up in the morning and go, I'm going to go to the game today and it's going to be a great atmosphere.
But that's because you've played at a high level. You've played in the Maracanã where there's 100,000 odd people, but some people actually think to themselves, I'm playing for Clyde, we're playing at Hampden today, I'm going to enjoy this pitch.
Do you think so? Do you know? There's not many of them going, is there? You look at the tennises tomorrow, there'll be 300, 290,
yeah, but do you not think we'll be saying, let's go and win this and get up a league? So the atmosphere in Lesser Hampden, it's a beautiful wee stadium, Lesser Hampden. I don't know why they don't play it. As Gordon says,
it's improved a lot as well. They've actually done a bit of work on it.
Absolutely beautiful, and I think, why not play it in as an atmosphere, as Ruffy says, an atmosphere. You know, I don't know where he was going with the sun coming out and all that kind of stuff, but you know,
the sun coming out is why there's 2,000 people there the day. There's only usually 300.
Yes.
No, it's Clyde supporters.
So stop that, Macca. Stop questioning you. That look towards you. How dare you?
There's two things. Lesser Hampden, obviously, is an AstroTurf pitch, but it's a good one. But the other side of it is they haven't got a licence for it, seemingly.
Yes.
That's why they can't use it. But it should be easy enough. They're at Hampden. That's where you get your licence.
Yeah.
Why not just apply for it? You
Absolutely.
know, but Queen's Park own Hampden, and a lot of people, there's people out there still don't realise that the SFA and everybody else rents from Queen's Park. It's their stadium, and that's why they insist on playing on Hampden Park.
It can't be their stadium because Queen's Park cannot afford to do any work on Hampden. So
it's their stadium.
Yeah, it's the strangest setup from centuries gone past, Macca.
Some of the people in the SFA are centuries old as well, but that's nothing to do with it.
But Gordon's left the SFA now, Macca. He's moved on. He's no longer there.
The point I was trying to make was if and somebody will correct us not too far away, if Queen's Park's average home crowd is 350,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
And they win the league today, what will it be next year?
360.
Well, listen, you know, the point, it depends on your attitude to football. What I try and do on this programme, and to your credit, you guys as well, we try and emphasise to people, listen, it's our national sport. Per head of population, Scotland ranks in the top 3 regularly for people attending football matches. So what I'm saying is there are a number of fans that we know we've lost over the years. So on the programme, we get managers, we get players in, and we say, get out to games. Go and support our national game. If you're close to Hampden Park, get out there and support that. If you're a Celtic fan, get out there. If you're a Rangers fan, get out there. You know, there are times when it's not going to be great, but that's what being a fan's all about. You go there in good times and bad, and you take it on the chin. And that, you know, again goes back to what we were originally talking about, which was, of course, this is what Ronnie Deila had to say, obviously getting ready for the game Celtic against Motherwell. This is what he had to say about people's attitude to the Celtic team that he was managing.
This club is special, and they have to understand how special it is and to protect the club, because everybody now is want to drag it down and want us to lose. And that's important then with unity and support. The players, the staff, everybody needs support. The managers are coming in here. He needs time and he needs support. If you do that, then people will grow and they will get the best out of them.
So I'm not sure I buy into that market. Everybody wants to drag the club down. There are a number of fans and a number of teams want to make sure that they beat Celtic and they want to see them lose games, but that's the nature of the game, that's sport.
Every single team you play against, way back to when I played, they want to beat Celtic. It's their cup final. You know, they don't want to drag them down just because they're Celtic. I mean, he's wrong there. It's always... People are having a go at Celtic because of the way they're playing. That has nothing to do with the football club. They're not dragging the football club down. They're dragging the people... They're trying to have a go at the people who are running it, the people who are managing it, and saying, look, let release some money, get some quality players, which they've always done. That's not having a go. I mean, I have a go. It's not having a go at the club, a Celtic Football Club. I'm having a go at the manager because you can't change things. The way they're playing football, it's not good enough. And in this day and age, the money that they're charging to go and watch football, especially at that level, Peter, is frightening. So you've got to entertain. You know, that's all Big Jock Stein says, and that's all Billy McNeil says. Go and entertain. You've got to entertain the crowd. If you want them to come back every week, you've got to entertain. The team at Celtic at the moment is not doing that.
But most of the people are criticising are ex-Celtic people. That's why he's wrong to suggest it's anti-Celtic in terms of the criticism. As Frank says, it's down to what he's doing, why he's in the job, is criticising the people above him. They shouldn't have employed him, but they've employed him, and he hasn't come through in terms of what the expectations were, and that's why he's leaving the club. That's what the negativity is about. It's nothing to do with the club, because it's mainly ex-Celtic players and people are connected with the club that are having a go.
But the thing is, you can't
is that
even
because
have a go
maybe
at
the
Ronnie.
people who are not ex-Celtic players haven't got a half-decent opinion to have a go as well?
We're not
Yes,
even, in a way, we're not even having a go at Ronnie. It's not anything about Ronnie.
Yes, you are.
Listen, if I got offered the job, I'd take it. It's too big for me, but I would take it. So Ronnie's every title to.
No, but
he's not up to it.
it is about Ronnie.
He's not up to the job,
but it is about Ronnie. That is the point here. It's not about. It's about people offering a critical assessment of his team. So it is, everything is about his team.
Well,
it's about that manager. The buck stops with the manager.
I says when he got the job, he's not big enough.
You can see why at one moment he would sit there and go, look at the stick I'm getting. I've only lost three games this year in the league. You know, as a manager, he'll be saying that to himself. Like, look at my stats. You know,
but everyone else is looking at the style of play and looking, going, well,
stats. I mean, there's other managers that have been there, haven't they, went through a season with Celtic and just lost 3 games.
Listen, Peter Lobwell could run the team and only lose 3 games.
Well, that might be a point. So other managers that have been there could have been like that as well.
But
Ruffy, his failings in Europe killed him
off. If you
off.
stick to Europe, that's the failing.
What happened with him was you would tick out the boxes and say expectations. You would say to win the league.
Yeah,
that's a win.
A
cup you win. You should certainly at least win one of the cups, and you should qualify into the group section of Europe. That's expectations right away, and he was just a letdown. In terms of what, because he won the league, but he was expected to win.
Gordon, as a manager, he could turn around and say to you, like, I never had the resources that the previous managers had to get into Europe.
No.
You know, I've been told to cut back and buy this and buy that. Martin Neal spent fortunes.
He never bought any
managers before him had more money than him to
there
get
is
into
no
Europe.
Comparison. It is the weakest argument possible on this programme.
But it's fact. No, he hasn't had the same amount of money as other managers.
Wait a minute. He's had more resources than any other club. Hold on a second.
If I was him, if I was sitting there going, hey, look, If Neil Lennon had been in the job this year, or Martin O'Neill or whatever...
No, I'm sorry, your argument is flawed,
Well,
and I'll tell you why your argument's flawed. He's had more money than any of the other clubs in the division right here and now. You can't look back the way...
I never said that. I said previous managers.
No, but it doesn't matter about his previous managers.
If you give me $4-6 million...
Okay, can I say something?
No, Rocky. The argument is flawed on the basis that, quite simply, if you're talking about going out and buying £4 to £6 million players, he wouldn't have been in the job in the first place. He was a manager that was brought in a certain budget to do a job, and in the here and now, the budget that he had was good enough to beat every other club. As Gordon says, he was expected to win the league. The reason why he failed, Ruffy, was on 3 or 4 counts. One, the players that he recruited did not perform on the park. The style of the play wasn't good enough. He lost out in 2 competitions in European football, and he allowed an Aberdeen side to threaten them for the title when they shouldn't have been in. They shouldn't have been within, what, 10, 15 points of them. That's the reason why he's out of a job, Ruffy. You're clutching at straws. If I had to do that, I would go back and say, why don't we look back at every manager previously and say, judge me on what they had to spend? You can't do that. He's judged on what he does here and now.
Yeah, 17 players, Peter. Why don't you just say, well, the money you've spent on them, just buy me 2 quality players.
Well, that's the point I'm making.
Well, he's not done it.
That's the point I'm making. If you give him the money to buy 3 or 4 quality players, he doesn't buy 17 players. Because the 3 or 4 quality players that he would have brought in... So
he's wrong then if he's bought 17 players?
He's not been given the money to buy the 4 quality players.
Why not? He spent money on 17 players.
The only money he spent is a centre-half. He's not spent any millions. £4 million player on anybody.
But he spent a considerable amount of money on 17 or so players. Of the 23 players, he's adamant he bought the 23 players, which you and I both know is not the case.
Yeah, of course
but
not.
he bought 23 players, Ruffy.
Right, but what I'm saying is, if I had the money to buy the quality players, you wouldn't have to have went out and bought.
But you don't buy 23. But you had it all up.
Well, that's just
that's
my opinion.
How much did he spend on the 23? How much did he spend on 23? Got a few million.
Well, that's the budget and
7-8 million.
They're operating on.
In terms of budget, though, you say if you sat right now before it happened, you said, right, we're playing Molde. How does Celtic compare with Molde in terms of spend?
Well, I don't think it'd be the same.
What, Celtic would be a lot more?
Yeah.
And how did they go on against them?
Well, I think
they lost home and away.
Yeah, but at that game, if you'd remind yourself of that game at 2-0 at Parkhead, that could have been 3. That game could have flipped on his head at any time. I'm not defending him. I'm only telling you. You're putting me in a position of what if I was sitting there and everybody's saying Europe was a failure. You know, but have a look at the rest of my record and compare to what I've had to deal with of what previous managers have had.
Well,
That's all I'm saying.
I would go as far as to say the only positive aspect of it is he managed to get over the line in one competition. He has a strong case for suggesting, and I think this is fair, Gordon, he's got a strong case for suggesting he was denied a treble in his first season because of match official error.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in the second season, his team did not progress. He was the first to admit in 6 months his team has gone, if anything, backwards.
Yes.
He didn't take them on. And the manager accepts that. And by the way, the board and the chief executive accept that because, you know, you can call it Ronnie's leaving. Ronnie was bulleted. It's as simple as that. Sadly, a nice man couldn't do the job. He was out of his depth. Now what we've got is a situation where they're up against Motherwell tomorrow. We'll hear from the candidates for the job. But Mark McGee has got a chance tomorrow to spoil the party. Ruffy, you actually think he might not come out and wave tomorrow if Motherwell win?
Well, again, I think it's all about how brave a guy he is to go out there, you know, in the light of everything that's been happening. I think we all know about the Ronnie roar, and a lot of them bought into that big time when everything was going well. But if they were to lose tomorrow and he was to walk on to the park, I don't think you would get the reception that you're thinking.
If they were to lose tomorrow, there will not be many people there at the end to walk on to.
Yeah, here's Mark McGee, who takes his Motherwell side there with a chance to win for the second time at Celtic Park.
I think we're going to go there as we did the last time and try and win the game. You know, we're not going there with any fear. Because there's not any fear in terms of we know we can give them a game, and secondly because there's nothing to lose because you know we've got 5th place and there's nothing else to be decided.
Yep, they'll go there without any great fear. It'll be Ronnie's last match in charge. You can give us your thoughts on where you think it went wrong for Ronnie Deila at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter, facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy. I've got to get your thoughts then, guys. Ruffy, we sat down in the company of David Moyes and had a chat with him about it. Is he in the box seat for you?
For me, he's in the box seat, but I'm obviously making the decision. You know, if he was the number one choice, he would be my man. But I think there's far too many other things that affect this decision. We already spoke to him. He's not going to be controlled by anybody. He's going to make his own decisions. He's already said he wants to win trophies. He'll need to bring in that 3 or 4 quality players that we're talking about, and he'd have to have a free rein. He'd have to have this say, and if we're led to believe that that wasn't the case with the last manager, then that's the kind of things that would have to change for him to take that job. It would be a wonderful job if everything was going right and you were doing well in Europe. We've already seen the fans buy into the Europe bit, and that's where the next manager has to take them back to.
Yeah, this was what David Moyes said to Ruffy and myself in our exclusive, maybe 6 or 7 weeks ago?
Yep, 6 or 7 weeks.
Celtic's been great love of mine now, and who knows, I would never say never, but obviously, you know, I've got ambitions to win things, and I would want to be at a club that would give me every chance to win and be involved with the Champions League and be at the top level.
Okay, you listen to a manager, you listen to his words. That interview we had with him, Gordon, was picked up right across these shores and beyond. He wants to be at a club that can win things. He wants to play in the Champions League. So we can rule out Newcastle, we can rule out Aston Villa, we can rule out Everton. And I think maybe the one job that might just derail this whole situation would be if Ronald Koeman left Southampton. He might think, okay, I'll take a job where I've got 3 or 4 years in the Premier League. The other jobs, he's not going to get them.
No, I think you're right. And as I say, it sounded very much like he was talking about Celtic when in terms of what he said. I mean, playing Europe, Champions League, win things. You're not going to be doing that. I mean, I know he definitely wanted to do that, but you know, he didn't get the chance. Manchester United was the club where he thought he could do that, and it didn't work out for him at all. So Celtic, you know, that maybe was the one negative in his whole football career so far. He had 2 very good appointments with Preston and then Everton. He did really well there. And I think what's happened is that, you know, his reputation will be good. There will be other English clubs interested in him, but I don't think at the top level. And I think that's why you'll see the Celtic job as the ideal match, I think.
And he's already touched on then, he's not got anything on his CV yet of winning.
No.
If he goes to Celtic for say 2 or 3 years, wins something, does something in Europe, then his stock goes back to where it was. And then the bigger clubs. Clubs can.
I think it's a tailor-made, Celtic's tailor-made from at this moment in time, just to go and, as Ruffy says, win something, get his CV, because he's got to get his reputation back, and Celtic have got to get their reputation back.
Yeah.
The fans, with everyone, and I think that's a big one. That the 2 of them are, as Ruffy said, I think the 2 of them are. It's like hand in glove.
Well, here's what we do know, Micah. We do know that Neil Lennon's been interviewed. We do know that Malky Mackay has been interviewed. Brendan Rodgers. Whether David Moyes has been interviewed, you know, here or in America over the last 2 weeks. He will have had the chat with Dermot Desmond and all the other runners and riders in this. Of course, Neil Lennon was on our programme, and he basically said, you know, he wanted the job, and I asked him what he thinks he could offer second time around.
Months experience. I know the market. I know the club, obviously, as well. I know the majority of the players because I worked under them, or they worked under me before. And there's still that real burning hunger, you know, to work again and achieve things. And you know, I'm far better for the experience of having worked at a club like Celtic, where you're used to winning things, and a club like Bolton, where you have to really get your hands dirty and manage through difficult times. So, like I say, I think I'm more rounded as an individual now than I was before.
I think he's an outside bet, Ruffy.
I think so.
Yeah, I think the fans would take to him. I think a couple of games here and there would turn them back on. And as he said, he probably would be able to work under the budget that's there just now. And he's right. He'll know the players that he needs to bring. He already brought 2 or 3 up, and Celtic made money on them, so that might be a thing that the board might fancy, like he's done it before. Maybe he could do it again, but I do think he would be, if Neil was to get it, he would probably be my 3rd choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I think maybe, am I right in thinking, Micah, that maybe the majority of Celtic fans might view that as a step backwards?
Well, but it means that Peter Lobber will be running it again, because he was there, and that's why Neil left, if I can remember right, because he was getting the strings cut again, and everything was getting, you know, they were cutting costs again, and Neil was saying, like, you can't cut any more if you want me to do this. So I think that was a big thing. But I think out of 2 of them, out of 4 of them, there's 2 that I would be happy with. Me personally, it would be Moyes and Rodgers. That would be 2 of them. I mean, Lenny would come in and do a great job, but I think it would be a cheap option for Celtic again. Not for Lenny wise, because Lenny can go and everyone knows what he can go and do with 8 set of players. But we want somebody to come in that's going to be strong and run the club. Whereas I don't know if Lenny will get it.
I think
he was always getting players that he didn't want.
Yeah.
And he's going, I don't want these, you know.
Yeah. I think he'd be a good manager, but I think a lot of people would see it as a step back. And I think that's why the board will probably think if we react like that in terms of how things have been going for us in recent, we're going to get more criticism. Yeah. And that's why I think we'll go for somebody new to put it onto somebody who's not done the job.
And the key question here, guys, is bums on seats.
Yes.
It's somebody that's going to get them excited. It's somebody that's going to allow them to open the turnstiles on the top tier, which has very rarely been full. It's somebody that's got a grasp of maybe being their own man, bringing in their own type of players. The strategy we're well aware of from David Moyes, because he outlined it all to us as far as bringing in 2 or 3 quality players, and also, you know, tightening that squad up and then deciding how they play right throughout the whole system. Now, Brendan Rodgers, possibility, could be waiting to the summer to see what comes up in the Premiership. Of course, the great thing about this whole story is the bookies. You know, we've had bets, you know, stop taking a bet on this guy, stop taking a bet on that guy, which suggests suddenly that this, you know, one person's in the front running for this. Martin O'Neill was mentioned as well in this, but you know, again, we had an exclusive interview with him this season on the programme, and this is what he had to say about the job.
I think that you know, the torch has passed and it's passed on. Young Lennon took up the cudgels there and did very, very well as well too. And Gordon did well, and so I always think it's in capable hands.
Okay, so he's not going to get it, but he certainly had a loud shout for Roy Keane to be in the running this week, and that's why I think a lot of Irish bookies stopped taking bets, Gordon.
Yeah, I think obviously they work along with each other. Dermot Desmond and Roy Keane are meant to be quite close too. I've heard that. They're very friendly, and there was a lot of talk that he might come back just maybe as a director of football at the club. It depends whether he wants to give up his international career, but I think some people are quite comfortable as an international manager because they don't have to work constantly anymore. Don't have the day-to-day thing, but he certainly was speaking up Roy Keane very highly.
Who gets it for you?
I think if he'll take it and accept the money, I think it's Davy Moyes.
Yeah, that's for me. Yeah,
he's the only name that's not been getting thrown about, which is significant. You know, if that is going on, there seems to be a secrecy there with him, where there isn't a secrecy with everybody else. We're all talking about
the other
them all.
thing,
We're all talking about Keane. We're all talking about, you know, the Liverpool boy.
The other thing is the qualifiers start very early. You've got to get somebody. You know, they've got to get somebody in now.
Yeah.
I think you've got to make a statement, whether it's Roy Keane, who's going to Euros, or somebody, so they can start working on it now.
Absolutely, they need to start soon.
Listen, there's not a lot of games on this afternoon, but we'll keep you up to date with what's happening in the Spanish League, because in La Liga it is right on a knife edge. If Barcelona were to slip up today and Real Madrid were to win, then Zinedine Zidane would be celebrating La Liga triumph. But at the moment, it is Ronaldo who's added a second for Real Madrid. They are are 2-0 up on Deportivo La Coruña, and also it is Granada against Barcelona, and Luis Suarez has scored the goal, Ruffy, which has given him a slender lead there. It was never going to be easy, but these two sides are battling for the title. Atletico Madrid are just out of it now. They must be really bored over there in Spain with just Barcelona and Real Madrid winning it all the time, Gordon, eh?
Fighting for the title again. Atletico only slipped up last week, to be fair.
I know.
It's amazing. I mean, Ronaldo's record is unbelievable. I was checking Suarez, in the last 4 games, Suarez scored 11 goals. And lead goals. And you know, you're looking at a scenario, we were talking earlier on and mentioned players. He scored 9 goals this season and he scored 11 goals. He's got 11 goals, his last 4. He scored again today. It's 12 goals in 5 games and it's not finished yet. Incredible record Suarez has got this year. I couldn't see past Barca winning that game. You know, but the very fact is, it's all in their own hands. They've got, you know, the most difficult game away from home against Granada. I can't see them slipping up.
Yep. Okay, we'll keep you up to date with that. And as far as the playoffs are concerned today, Queen's Park 0, Clyde 1 still at this moment. And there you can see East Stirlingshire 0, Edinburgh City 0. Looks as if that one could be heading to extra time penalties. It's got that look about it as well, unless there's a dramatic, what I call Bob McHugh time now, Ruffy, to score a goal. It's the perfect time to score it with literally the last kick of the ball. Falkirk 3, Hibs 2. If you were at the game, give us your thoughts on the atmosphere during it and after it at peterandruffy.com and /Facebook/Peter and Ruffy as well. Okay, let's talk about Rangers. Because I think it's well worthy of recognition. This season, what Mark Warburton's done, Gordon Smith, he's changed the style of the team. We had a slight bit of knowledge about him with the Brentford situation, but he's come in with David Weir as his assistant, and suddenly the garden looks rosier. Yeah,
and he's changed quite a bit about the club as well. He's got other ideas in terms of how the recruitment should be and youth development, all that sort of thing. And he gets very much involved in that. So it's positive in terms of the fans you speak to are a lot happier in terms of how they're playing, happier with the standard of the performances and how the players are doing, and also that degree of success that's been brought in. I mean, he won a cup that's never been won by the club before, and if 4 years have been down in that part of they hadn't won, you know, the cup before, Petrofac Cup, and then they did win the championship comfortably. And now competing for one of the major trophies as well, which I haven't done in the last 3 or 4 years. So it's been a great season for him. He's taken them up into the Premier League, and as I say, there's a whole load more positivity about it. He's got to recruit now, because the fans, the funny thing about it is, I said that would happen, and it has happened by getting a good performance against Celtic in the semi-final and getting through. The expectation levels have risen for him. You know what I mean? Before, people might say, "We'll go up and just hopefully we'll have a good season back in the Premier League and get better." Not anymore. It's like,
no, we've got to win it.
We've got to win in the league.
Got to win it and the Europa League.
Yeah,
that's true.
Okay, Mark, I try not to get too angry about
no, I'm just saying, it's a fact. It's a fact. That's what happens. It's not just Rangers. It's you know, you start winning a couple of games and everyone, new manager will come in at Celtic, win a couple of games, and everyone will be right. Let's get the Champions League and get the last 8. And
have you been impressed by him?
Warburton, yeah. I think I like a manager that goes out and you can tell the way he's got a bit of respect with the way he speaks, you know, and he's honest, because he's come out and said a few times we didn't deserve that, and it's a bit like Walter Smith. Walter Smith done that a couple of times when he was manager at Rangers. He came out and he was honest. He says, "I don't know how we won that, but we'll take it." Yeah. And that's what fans want to hear. The fans want to hear that. They don't want to hear the same old tired routine. How do we get beat, or how, you know, we deserve to win the game. Well, sometimes you don't deserve to win it and you get 3 points. And that's what fans want to hear, managers. So the guy speaks properly, and he obviously knows the game, and he's got David Weir beside him who knows the Scottish game, knows Rangers. It was a match made in heaven, really, wasn't it? Yeah.
When I interviewed him on the stage at the PFA Awards, Ruffy, I got a real sense from him and the players who picked up awards as well that they were all, you know, as a collective with the same message. For so long we've witnessed over the last 4 years a fragmented, you know, a group of people who are not all singing from the same hymn sheet. You know, there was unrest in the background. Ali McCoist was effectively a manager diffusing bombs week in, week out. Suddenly you've got a team who have a vision and they're all speaking the same language. And Mark Warburton came across as a man who wanted to play football the right way and wants to try and build something at Rangers.
Yeah, and I personally still think they've got something to build. I still think they're a wee bit away yet.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're 5 or 6 players away. I mean, good players. I think they've done tremendously well from where they were, and quite rightly so. But I think you have to appreciate they're in a league where there's only been 3 challengers. There have been blimps along the way.
What's a blimp?
A blimp is a poor result. A poor result. If I was to say,
like a blip.
No, it's an additional one.
If I was to say to you that Ronnie Delia took Celtic to Alloa and got a draw, and took them to Livingston and got beat, you can imagine the stick he'd be getting.
Yeah.
I think he got off very, very lightly with some of these results, basically because of the rest of the results were very, very good. The draw and the win in penalties against Celtic just capped the whole season. But I think deep down he knows that there are players in that team who aren't going to get top 4 in the league next year. And that's when he'll be judged on the players that he brings in.
Do you think
and
he'll get top 4 next year?
Not at the moment. I don't think with the squad they've got. I don't think there's a
he knows
consistency
that.
level there to play against the better sides. It was shown that there were along the road there were wee hiccups here and there, but there was no challenge.
When they came up to a challenge, they stood up, and you've got to give them credit for that. But they've not got the squad that can do it week in and week out.
I think we maybe lost a real true balance of where Rangers are as far as the Premiership is concerned, Gordon, with the Scottish Cup semi-final, because for the ineptitude of Ronnie Dyla's side kind of in some ways inflated the expectation around Rangers and the way they played, because there were long periods when Rangers had that ball and Celtic were on the back foot. So suddenly you get to a situation where Rangers eventually triumph on a penalty shootout, and then, you know, the expectation goes through the roof with this side. But if a chairman and a board say you need 5 or 6 players, if the manager says you need 5 or 6 players as well, I mean, they've now managed to sign Jordan Rossiter, the England under-19 player. You know, he's a midfielder from Liverpool that I think a lot of people are talking about. He's not going to have millions to spend, but in the background, I think Rangers have got a number of other issues that they still have to sort out before we know the true extent of how much money they've got. Yeah,
we don't exactly know how much what his budget is for spending. And I think maybe he's looking to bring in 4 or 5 players, not just necessarily to be first team players, but he wants a more of a challenge in certain positions. The interesting thing for me, Peter, was watching them this season was when I saw the first game against the Premier League team was against St Johnstone, and Rangers were comfortably beaten that night. And I thought to myself, they've got a problem. This team is not ready for the Premier League, right, at that time. Then the 3 games since, I've seen improvement, and that improvement is developing. The Kilmarnock game, when they won at Rugby Park, was a much better. They competed very well, not against a great side, Kilmarnock, but then they went out and beat Dundee 4-0, and that was the most impressive performance of the season, in my opinion, until they played Celtic. And once again, it was an impressive performance. You could see they need certain players in certain positions, but I think with the improvement that's there and how he's been turning it around, and I think if he brings in a few players, he will have a challenge. And I think, Ruffy, I think they'll definitely be top 4.
What you're saying, see, against St Johnstone, the biggest thing I noticed was they were great going forward. But when the full-backs were going forward and naively, or whatever you want to call it, but the midfield players were not filling in for them. They weren't helping as a team. And the next game they played a higher opposition, because you can do that in the lower league spirit. You can, both full-backs can bomb forward. We're not going to hurt you. Whereas if you step up, they're going to hurt you. So the next game they stepped up, and I thought they learnt off that, which is saying a good manager.
I think they need 5 starters, 5 or 6.
I think Barton's not a bad start if they get him.
If they got Joey Barton, fine, whatever role he decided to play. But Ruffy, I think 2 centre halves. I definitely think a commanding midfielder. someone, I mean, O'Halloran, I think, will come into his own in that division. He knows all about it. And I definitely think they need 2 other strikers. That's 5 that I think need to start in the side, not squad players.
To be fair, they don't play 2 strikers, Peter, though. That's the thing. I see Clyde are actually down to 10 men. They've had a man sent off, so that's going to be a bit of a blow for them. They're still leading 1-0, 3-2 in aggregate, they're down. But what I would say to you was, I think through the heart of the team, I think that where they will recruit is a goalkeeper, centre-half, at least one centre-half, a strong midfield player, a holding type of player, and we'll mention Barton.
Do you reckon Waghorn can do it in the Premiership? Do you reckon?
I think in the Premier League in Scotland, yeah. And I think striker, I think they need one more striker. They don't really play more, but I think they need a big central striker, and I think that's what they'll also try and get in. I think they need just to fill it there. I think other than that,
what a Mark Haley type?
No, I tell you, a guy that can take the ball into his feet and on his own, because they do play that system as well, a 4-3-3.
Yeah, I know that, but
you,
listen, you know yourself, you tend to put a big centre forward up now, they tend to launch it.
Well, you only have to look at the evidence. You only have to look at the evidence. The evidence is if Joey Barton is, somebody that they're looking at, then there's your holding midfielder. Every Rangers fan I speak to turns around and said the centre of defence needs addressed. Whether the goalkeeper's there or not, only time will tell. But the striking department, they need cover. The striking department, I think, the burning question is, well, who have they been looking at? Well, his name's Greg Stewart. I mean, who else have they been looking at in a striking sense? You've got the 2 boys from Accrington Stanley coming in, Matt Crooks and Josh Windass, so they're going to provide something as well. So,
I think one of the big questions is how are the Barry Mackays and the Holts going to handle coming back into the SPFL? A better standard of football. Will they be able to raise a level? And that's what the manager will be looking at just now. Okay, they've been fantastic. The wee boy Mackay's get into the Scotland team, but has he got something extra? There's been so many players come into the Rangers team like Barry Mackay and just kicked on. It remains to be seen if at a bigger level if he's got something else in his
you're hoping.
Well, the bigger level, 2 games I saw him at the bigger level most recently were Dundee and Celtic, and he was outstanding. So I think that gives you an indication that he can do it.
I know what Ruffy said, if he can do it every week
consistently.
You won't know
consistently. But the thing about it is consistency you're looking for. But if you're asking, is he capable of doing it? I think he proved in those 2 games he could definitely do it. I don't see why he couldn't do it consistently.
Well,
he's shown it.
I think the main unanswered question here is not on the park. I think it's off the park. I think there are 2 or 3 issues in the background. I think Granada nil, Barcelona 2, and I think that confirms that Barcelona will indeed be the champions of Spain once again. The unanswered questions, Gordon, you've got these court cases that are still to be determined, and you also have a situation where Dave King will have to suddenly show his hand, because the Rangers fans will undoubtedly back the club as they have done, and now there'll be 40,000 season tickets maybe, you would think, going back into the Premiership. Suddenly you have to say, okay, the Rangers fans saying, we've put our money in, where's yours?
That's right. Well, it will also come from Mark Warburton, because he's the man who is taking them in there. He's going up, he's the one that will dictate as well and say, am I getting money spent? And if he's not getting it, I wouldn't be surprised if he says, I'm not staying then. Because I'm pretty sure he'll have other people interested in him, because his manager's job is going to become available.
I think he'll know right away if he'll know by now if he's getting money. I think he'll know.
I think he'll have dictated it. He might have said, I'm bringing these boys in. The boys we're talking about, he's brought a few in that are free agents. And it's the same. So he's maybe saying, well, okay, you've got 5 million total to spend, and he's maybe thinking, right, that's going to be for 2 players. But don't forget, you're competing nowadays down in England with clubs. League One clubs have got more money than Rangers have got to spend on players, and wages are higher. I
don't think there's any debate about. I think Matt Warburton will be there next year, Gordon. I think that's not the problem. The problem here is you have a board who've come out and said, this new board, we are going to be transparent. This new board, with Dave King finally getting power, I think there's still one battle to do with Mike Ashley, which if they manage to cut that umbilical cord, I think the club can move on and try and get some more money revenue in from the strip deal. But the Rangers fans are saying, oh no, wait a minute, you said there's 30 million. So where is the 30 million?
There's not going to be 30 million, I don't think.
I don't think that.
Because you wouldn't be out bringing.
There's going to be some with Ashley, because now that there's a situation now that they've been relegated. So
Well, there is an
investigation
investigation over what ties and what business interests he would have at Rangers, which conflicts with Newcastle in the Football League in England.
Yeah.
That's, again, something that I would hasten to add right now. We can't determine, whether it's going to be favourable to Rangers or not. Certainly, I think the Rangers board are looking on and saying this could be something that gets us, maybe a bit of more control of our club back again, because it's the last bit of the jigsaw.
There's also a legal factor in the case that's against, like Charles Green, also that's getting looked into as well, and going to go to trial in terms of whether he was acting in a certain way. If that goes against him, then everything he did there as well. It could be counteracted too, in terms of agreements he made, and these agreements were with the sports company. So for the strips and all that sort of thing. So these are other issues that have still to come and be sorted.
Yeah, I think on the part
we're talking about football rather than talking about things. That's the biggest thing for me this season. Everyone's talking about Rangers as a football club.
Well, I don't think Ali McCoist answered the question, Robbie, on his team.
I felt
in all the time. I had great sympathy for him, because every time he came into a press conference, it was about the mayhem that was going on behind him.
Yeah, and I think the Rangers manager will be honest enough. Yeah, he's not witnessed what's going to happen in the future. He's not going to witness the questions he's going to get asked when, if it does happen, if Rangers lose 2 games on a bounce, if they're in the bottom 6 for a wee while, the pressure he's going to be under, the pressure the players are going to be under, with everything that goes with the success of the club. We've already talked about they will be wanting to challenge Celtic. And the club will feed out, like, let's take this nice and slow, we're going to be prudent in everything we do, we're going to watch our money. But the supporters aren't. The supporters are going to say, we bought the season ticket, we want challenging, we want to beat Celtic all the time, we want to be, that's just the way the old firm are. So that'll be another thing that will be a test as well. But if you look at Hearts, the success that they've had, there's no any reason to suggest that Rangers won't have. In my opinion, just the players at this precise moment who are coming in, a lot of them we don't know anything about, don't look as if they're the players who are going to challenge Celtic.
Yep, okay, and of course we've already discussed the teams that were in 2nd, 3rd and 4th, because the playoffs now have been determined as far as the Championship clubs are concerned. You can give us your thoughts if you were at the Falkirk Stadium. That 3-2 win and a magnificent late winner from Bob McHugh settled it. I can tell you, in the other playoff matches today, East Stirlingshire are down to 10 men, and now they're a goal down. Edinburgh City have scored, and it's amazing how football, and that's why we love it, it can flip in 60 seconds, go a man down, go a goal down, and that could be the club not only down, but you wonder about the future completely for them.
Because they happened so quickly together, you wonder if it was a penalty then, wasn't it? He brought them down, penalty kick, goal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the incidents were very, very close. But I mean, it's amazing if we get another club in the league. If Edinburgh City get in to the league, who's to say that they won't be able to move on, and they may be able to bring in a bigger crowd. And I mean, East Stirlingshire don't even have their own stadium, do they? I think they have to play at Stenhousemuir, don't they? So it's a shame for them. They're not a club that's been struggling for a while.
Do they not need to get their own stadium to come up into the league? No.
East Stirlingshire?
Edinburgh?
No, Edinburgh. Do they?
Well, they play at Meadowbank at the moment, so I think it meets a number of the requirements. And Dougie Gare is the man who scored the goal for Edinburgh City. You're absolutely right, Gordon, from the penalty spot.
That's why we like
so there you have it. We were actually going to go live to the Meadowbank Stadium, but the line we put in 1972 no longer works. so we're not going there.
And you better tell everybody I wasn't watching footage of the game to suggest that it was a penalty.
No, certainly not on.
He just used his crystal ball.
Absolutely, certainly not on his.
Come dancing. He's watching.
Certainly not on his first generation pad that he's got there. But nevertheless. That's a big goal for Edinburgh City, and I think it has huge long-term implications for East Stirlingshire if they were to go out of the professional league. But we always want to see clubs survive and thrive, but the nature of sport, winners and losers. Who's going to be the winner and loser in the Scottish Cup final? If you have been watching Hibs and they're in agony today after the events of last night, give us your thoughts on whether Alan Stubbs can somehow just get that squad back up again and lifted and try and create a little bit of history at Hampden next Saturday in the Scottish Cup final against Rangers. Of course, we've been talking about Rangers. Kenny Miller was our guest on the programme. He was talking about, first of all, challenging next season, because Rangers will have to add more than a few players, but the Rangers striker who will continue to play, he thinks they can challenge.
That's it. We're obviously we have to take care of the job at hand this year, which is make sure we got promoted. We've done that, we've done it well. It's been a really enjoyable season, but we're thoroughly looking forward to next season. Big game still to go. Hopefully we can take care of that. But next year, obviously, there's no doubt we need to strengthen, as everybody else will. Celtic will, Aberdeen, like Ruffy says, Hearts. Everybody will be looking to strengthen. But we can be focused on us, and we know if we get the right players in, we've got a good opportunity to go and really challenge next year.
Don't worry, Kenny's not in the studio today, just in case you're fooled by the vast array of pink shirts that Ruffy has. Just a whole batch of about 300 of them that he's worn throughout the season. But Kenny Miller says they can challenge. Of course, they've got the big game coming up against Hibernian. Can they win the cup? Who will feel the greater pressure? Well, Kenny Miller thinks that, Hibs will go into the game hoping they can create their own little bit of history, but they have their own agenda at Rangers.
They're a good team. We've had some good battles against them already this season. I think we're just edging it I think we've had 5 games, we're just edging it 3-2. But like you say, within the games there have been some tight ones, there's been some not so tight ones. But again, we'll focus on what we're doing. We know if we go about our business the right way, we play how we're supposed to play, we know we'll get chances and we know we'll cause them problems.
So, can you see Hibs lifting themselves up here? Is it all about Rangers and the treble?
I think Hibs would have to do what Rangers did to Celtic, come out with their sleeves rolled up and with a fight and a determination, a collectiveness, to know that Rangers, if you let them play, they should win the game. But I mean, Hibs have had a reasonable results against Rangers this season, but I have to think it would have to be a massive improvement and a massive performance for everybody in the team to win that one.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that, as I say, Rangers will definitely be favourites for the game. Hibs, 2 things in their favour. One is the fact they've not got a midweek game now, so they can prepare for the game and relax a little bit. That's been taken away from them, and they'll not be happy about that, obviously, because they wanted to play Kilmarnock this week, but they can have a week's rest. And also, as I say, there will be massive underdogs in this game. So they'll be able to go into the game with very little expectancy, because most people will be saying, oh, Rangers should win this, Rangers will win it. And it's a massive game for Hibs, because every cup final is, because of this record they've waited so long. I played in the very last ever Rangers-Hibs final, 1979 it was, so it shows you how long it is since these 2 clubs have actually met.
Why did you let them win?
Hibs.
Aye.
We played them in 3 games. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And do you know what happened as well? We had a league game with Hibs after the cup final. So we actually played that. That was May 1979. We actually played Hibs 4 times that month. 3 in the cup and 1 in the league. Unbelievable.
Yeah. And if you get a chance, avoid watching the cup games on YouTube.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
3 of the worst Scottish Cup finals you're ever likely to see in your life.
Don't do Betamax now anyway, do they?
Yeah, and for the benefit of our younger viewers, Betamax was a form of tape that Frank used to watch all those years ago. But yep, it's a cup final to look forward to. Let me just tell you right now, we're into injury time in the games. It looks as if Edinburgh City could be just edging it in the league playoff to stay in the league. East Stirlingshire down to 10 men, and also Clyde down to 10 men, and Gus McPherson's side edging closer to, I think, an amazing result to take them up a division, Ruffy.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what league you're in, the celebrations will be the same, and I'm sure the Queen's Park boys will enjoy every minute of it. It's a tremendous occasion, and that's what you're in football for, to win things, and certainly a team like Queen's Park, it'll be a fantastic occasion with the history that Queen's Park have got.
And just at this moment, I'm looking. Thank you very much to everyone who's tweeting in at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter and Facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy. It's finished. Edinburgh City will be coming into the Professional League next season. Gordon Smith.
Yeah, it's amazing. A big change. We had this scenario that changed about last year when it was the first opportunity that teams had of getting promoted. A new pyramid system that's been put in place, and it didn't happen last year. But there we have it. It was a Highland League team. I think it was in last year, wasn't it? Was it Nairn that were Brora were playing for it? Sorry. And this year, you get Edinburgh City, who've just a pretty new club. They've come through, doing fantastically well, and that's going to be a big change because I say it's one of the teams, another team from Edinburgh, in the leagues sort of thing. So that's quite interesting.
Yeah, good luck to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations to them. I think we're now waiting on that Queen's Park result just to be confirmed. Also, managers have been reacting after games today in the bottom half of the Premiership. Partick Thistle 2-2 with Hamilton Accies. Alan Archibald, I think, conceding today that it looks as if they're going to lose Stuart Bannigan and Dan Seaborn. No surprise there, Ruffy.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say Stephen Lawless there as well. Yeah, obviously with Dundee United's plight of getting relegated, he was certainly earmarked for Dundee United next year. Maybe it was just a case if they'd stayed up, but certainly the Seaborn one I'm not too disappointed about. That he's been in and out with injuries, and so I think they could get a better player than him.
Yeah, there's a bit of merriment in the studio, and the reason for that is we actually have a Queen's Park fan as part of our production team, which is amazing. He's jumping about, and of course we're in trouble with Queen's Park because we've taken a substantial amount of fans away from them by hiring them. But nevertheless, he's delighted, and I think I'm only kidding. I think the celebrations will be long into the night for Queen's Park. Magnificent for Gus McPherson. So delighted for him.
Couldn't happen to nicer guys. As you said, he's worked so hard and put in so many hours at St Mirren and other clubs, and to go there with nothing, absolutely, no wages or nothing, but the stadium is great. I seen him at the start of the season. I had a chat to him and then the Lesser Hampden, and it was all young boys that was there, and he's saying, he's taking them out for pre-season, and he was laughing. All the boys were laughing, all right, Mark, and all that. And he said, they have no idea what I'm just about to do today. Pre-season training, the boys, he says, give them 20 minutes, they'll not be all right, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's quite interesting that
good sense of humour.
They've got a celebration today.
Pleased.
Yeah, I mean, it's their sixth game against Clyde this season. 4 wins, a draw, and 1 defeat, and it was today. But they're celebrating that 1 defeat because it was, the first leg was so crucial. Peter getting a 3-1 lead to take it home. It's tremendous to get that lead, and Clyde will be disappointed because I'm pretty sure right through that game they feel they had a real chance.
Yeah.
But I think the ordering off was probably a turning point, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And the great thing about having you two in the studio, if you get anything right, Ruffy, he goes correct, and then if he's making a point and Mark agrees, he jumps in and goes yeah. Honestly, you're like deputy dog's assistant every time there's a good point made.
I wasn't listening to him, sorry.
I was telling stats again.
Of course, we're talking about managers and the reaction to it. John Hughes says he wants, from Inverness's perspective, after today's result, he wants, more success, more silverware, and European football next season. So clearly, you've got managers now a bit between their teeth. They want to be able to take it on. I think that's the story of today. When you look at the teams that are,
you want to be in it. You want to be in at the end of the season. You want to be challenged. You want to have something to grasp onto. There was far too many teams this year just fell out of everything, and we kept talking about can they get third, can they get second, who's going to win it, and when you're in that middle bit, trying to keep everybody on board is difficult. But and where Inverness have been, he'll definitely want to get back there.
Yep, coming up after the break, we'll look at the matches tomorrow in the Scottish Premiership. We'll look at the matches in the Barclays Premier League, talk about that Leicester City miracle that eventually was delivered by Claudio Ranieri and the team. It's all coming up after the break. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday Football Show, our final Saturday show of the season. Hopefully you've enjoyed our coverage over the course of the season and you'll join us for next season's campaign. Congratulations, I have to say, to Queen's Park. They are moving up a division after winning the playoff against Clyde over 2 legs by 3 goals to 2. Tremendous respect and our best wishes to Gus McPherson and also to Edinburgh City. They have defeated East Stirlingshire and will now move into the professional league in League 2. So suddenly Edinburgh has yet another side in the professional setup. And elsewhere across European football, today was title day in Spain, half time and just possibly going into the second half shortly. Barcelona leading Granada by 2 goals to 0. Ruffy. Real Madrid, they are ahead against Deportivo La Coruña, but a Barcelona win, they'll have La Liga title once more.
Yeah, and that's the difference between 2 big quality sides. You can't say that they're going to throw this away. They have too much quality in the side to do that. You would think they would add to it. Suarez has got 2, I think Ronaldo's got 2, and you would expect them to, if they need to see out the game, they'll be able to do it.
As far as the bottom half of the Premiership today, it was a good win for Inverness against Dundee by 4 goals to 0. As you can see, Dundee United finished off with a 4-2 win at Rugby Park against Kilmarnock. And Partick Thistle shared the spoils with Hamilton Accies, 2 goals apiece. Coming up in the next part of the programme, we'll look ahead to Aberdeen against Ross County, Celtic Motherwell and Hearts against St Johnstone. But in the end, I think the story of the day, Gordon Smith, is Dundee United might have got a win, but it's going to be a real summer of turmoil.
It certainly will be. I mean, there'll be a lot of changes coming there. I mean, it's a good result. I mean, it's like, you know, as I say, you take over as a manager, you obviously want to win your first game and get a bit of credit, because the last game of the season, the fans will maybe shut off now and think, well, we're going to be better next season, we're going to be a better team with a new regime. There'll be a lot of players in and out. It'll be a case of making decisions. But you know, it's quite good. I think to a certain degree, because he's actually managed at a lower level, he'll have a good idea about the players, the standard of players down in the other divisions too, and maybe people that he thinks can do a job at a higher level, you know, do a job in the Championship, because he's been a manager in the Championship and that's where he's going to be next season.
Yeah, I think, Ruffy, the greatest amount of turmoil will be at the boardroom level. The fans are clearly not happy. They like Ray McKinnon, no argument there, but they want change elsewhere.
Yeah, I think if they got their way, they would want a complete change. I think the owner has not embraced themselves to the fans at all this year. You know, there's far too many things happening, and the best thing would be if another businessman was to come in and just release him from his job.
Ruffy, it didn't quite work out for us in our head-to-head. John Bairda wanted to score 25. You wanted Martin Waghorn to score 40. In the end, we both just nullified each other.
Yeah, but I mean, Waghorn's got a game next week. You never know.
Yeah, OK, I think he'd need to score 11 goals in that game to somehow snatch the bet for Ruffy. We'll discuss that. We'll discuss our teams of the year. Will they be vastly different? You can find out coming up next. Saturday football show. Delighted to have your company here. Boy, that was close. You know, sometimes, and I might as well let you into a secret, sometimes people like Macca need extra makeup, and boy, the makeup girl there had to get in and out quickly. Just a big trial, and then he's back on. He's looking good.
Yeah, thank you.
Peter and Ruffy's Saturday football show. We're in that final hour. It's amazing. We've been blethering on here, chatting about things that you might agree with, you might disagree with, but I think all with football in mind. We've looked on what was happening across 4 divisions in Scotland, but down in England, Gordon Smith, I think it's been an incredible story that's really caught the imagination of everyone across the world.
Yeah.
Leicester City's story will make a fantastic movie.
There's no doubt about that. I mean, everybody loves it. I mean, they do see it as something special in sport. I mean, there's no doubt about it. If somebody comes from nowhere, not expected to do anything, and unlike a lot of other competitions, it may be just a one-off thing that they do it special. That's not the case with Leicester. They won the league over a whole number of games, and even through that period, people were writing them off, saying, "No, they won't keep this going. Other teams will come through." You get big clubs, your Man United, Man Cities, Chelsea's, or whatever, Arsenal's. They'll get above them, and they didn't, and they've won the league. And I think they deserve all the credit they're getting. And as I say, worldwide, you're absolutely right. It's been a big talking point, isn't it?
Yeah, and what's great about it is Chelsea will have to provide the guard of honour. I mean, it just doesn't get any better if you're a Leicester City player. Here's the fixtures and the implications for so many managers. Arsene Wenger said he's going to still be in the job, Macca. Aston Villa, looking at a new manager. Chelsea with Antonio Conte coming into the situation. And then over and above that, Roberto Martinez loses his job. We're also looking at a situation where Alec Neil says that, will he be there for next season? Will he be looking to try and get Norwich back into the top flight? And Rafa Benitez says he expects to be at Newcastle.
Do you think so?
Well, that's what he said today.
Well, good luck to him, but I don't think he's the man, because he's that's a hard league to get them out of. He's got experience in the top leagues. Whether he's got the experience and he'd want to go down there, because that's going to be such a hard league to get out of next year.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing though, Ruffy, it's not a league where you plan long term. I mean,
no.
Pochettino, great, he signed a new deal. Koeman could leave Southampton. You've got suddenly a situation where Pellegrini's leaving Manchester City, Pep Guardiola on the way. I think the only man happy is Sam Allardyce for the escape that he managed to engineer.
Yeah, but as a manager, it seems to be that's the place where you want to be. That's the place where the money is. That's where you've got the opportunity to go out and buy quality. You go out and spend money with the amount of money they've got. And most of these clubs do that, and that's why the fans are so excited with the start of the season, because the players that they attract from other countries is fantastic.
Okay, coming up after the break, I'm going to leave you with a little teaser of our 3 panellists today. One of them was involved in something very special 28 years ago today. Could it have been Alan Ruff? 28 years ago? Could it have been Gordon Smith with jet black hair producing something special? Or could it have been Frank McAvenny? The answer to that conundrum is coming up after the break, and we're also going to be talking Scotland. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday football show here on STV. Delighted to have your company. Don't forget, you can still join us through the month of May, Monday to Friday at 7 o'clock on our football show. And of course, right through the months of June and July, we'll have some very special programmes for you. A few legends here and there telling us their story of yesteryear. So look out for that as well. Here today, Alan Ruff, Gordon Smith and Frank McAvenny have been looking back over the season and looking ahead to some of the key games coming up. And the key games tomorrow, the first of them Celtic against Motherwell at Celtic Park. You talked about the prospect of Motherwell going there and getting another win at Celtic, but would you imagine the players want to give Ronnie at least one farewell send-off that he can celebrate?
Yeah, I think when you're getting a trophy handed over, you want to put on a performance. We know Celtic can do that, and if they all turn up at the right time, they could put on a wee bit of a show. It'll be the last game. I'm sure the Motherwell boys will want to go there, but I don't think they'll have the same determination to try and win it, you know. So I think if Celtic were to go up very early on, I think they could run out quite easily winners. Yeah, well, Motherwell can't even get up a position in the league now. They can't catch St Johnstone anyway for 4 spots. So, and Celtic, fun enough, it was an amazing result when it happened earlier in the season, wasn't it? When they went to Celtic Park and got a victory, because Celtic won both games at Motherwell, and yet they lost the game at home. So I would imagine that they'll want to put on a show tomorrow. So I can't see past Celtic getting the result tomorrow. Yeah, if anything, if it's a day like today, Frank, a number of people will want to go out there, maybe purchase the new strip, maybe go into the stadium, enjoy the celebrations, and then look and wonder what's about to happen. Although usually at the end of the game, the manager comes out and is interviewed on the microphone, and I know Manuel Pellegrini wasn't too keen to extend it beyond 1 or 2 questions, but he might have to get up there, Ronnie. Ronnie will go out, he'll say thank you and goodbye, and it was great being manager, and the fans will give him, as you say, the fans will give him a round of applause. You know, it's done. He's came, he's had his time, he's had his run at it, and it's come to an end. There's no point in anyone having a pop at the guy now. It's done. He couldn't match up to what Peter Lawwell thought he could do, but it's you've got to say well done. You've won the league. Time to go now. Let somebody else in. But just enjoy tomorrow. Whether they'll get away with that if they get beat tomorrow, I don't know. So you're hoping that they're going to win and send Ronnie away, with good thoughts in his head. Yeah, the fixtures tomorrow have Celtic at home to Motherwell, and Aberdeen are up at Ross County. And I wonder about the reaction of supporters at Pittodrie, and then there's Hearts against St Johnstone. I think if you're a Hearts player running out onto the field at Tynecastle, the applause will be deafening, Gordon Smith. Yeah, I mean, they're not in a great run at the moment, Hearts as well, considering the fact that, they're right up near the top of the league. But, a good win during the week to win up at Aberdeen, and I think that, the fans I think are appreciative of what they've done. What a great achievement it is for them this season to get promoted, take the club back to where they should be. And as I say, Anne Budge, we've given her a lot of credit before. She's the person that's masterminded it, no doubt about that. Craig Levine has played his part. I don't think his reputation went down because of obviously his Scotland job and that he wasn't too popular. But why was that? I don't know why that was. Because he never played the wee, but I've got a game. He only played strikers. He only failed to qualify by, I think it was at 1 point. I think he failed to qualify for. But the thing was, he was criticised because of how they played. That was mainly the game. That was the one that got him. And as I say, but his assistant's going on to do well, Peter Houston. He's done okay. You have to look at it and say, well, I think Hearts got a great reception. At least he's put strikers on, Well, he has. Obviously, wasn't his decision that day, then, was it? No. Yeah, well, I'm sure hindsight's a wonderful thing. There are clubs that have actually played without an out-and-out striker in their side, but then again, you can afford to do that when you're Barcelona, can't you? Yeah, of course you can. But, Ronnie Dyler was getting it in the neck for only playing with one striker. Craig Levine got it for not playing with a recognised striker. And as far as Aberdeen are concerned at Pittodrie, what reaction do you think the Dons fans will give Derek McInnes' side? I would think good. I think on the whole, I think they've supported them right the way through. Yeah, they've faltered here and there, but I think to finish second, I think the disappointment will obviously be the cups. not having a good run in them and possibly not winning one. But I think with everything that's going on behind the scenes about the new stadium, the new facilities, that with the buzz talk up there, the fans will go along there that day, and if they win the game, I'm sure they'll get a good reception.
As far as our teams of the year, we've been looking at the performers, the individual ones. Ruffy, we might as well have a look at your team first to see how it fares. Give us your thoughts behind your selection.
Yeah, I think Craig Gordon's had a good season, not a great season, but I still think he's the best goalkeeper in the league. That's why I put him in the goals.
So you put him there on performance?
Yeah. Patterson has a good season. I have my doubts sometimes about his temperament, but for full-backs to get forward and score goals, crucial goals, he's done that all season. Mackay's a big favourite of mine. Unfortunately, he got injured.
So you put him in just out of sentiment?
Yeah, basically, yeah. He's been on the show, and he's a good lad. And
he hasn't played since January.
Can I change my team?
No, you can't.
I just want to put Ruffy in because I like him.
Yeah,
I'll put him in the goal.
Absolutely.
My team's just disappeared. So.
January played.
Yeah, put it back up and just can you go through it quicker?
Right.
Because we've already established
I can never pronounce this guy's name.
Zinchenko.
Since he's come in, he's done all right. I don't think he's an out-and-out centre half, but
you can think anyone else.
So you're picking somebody who's not really good in that position.
No, he's
guy is injured all season.
Mackay, I'm sure he would compliment Mackay.
Okay.
Tierney's just been fantastic this year. Nicholson in and out of the season, but I like him. He's an entertainer, scores goals. Brown in different season, but I think you need somebody like that in the team. Stewart obviously has had a great season, lots of goals. Hayes for me would have been up there for my player of the year, and Griffiths as well, and Boyce.
Al Jones is an entertainer. We've been
well, I have to say to you, and I don't think, listen, friendships, strong friendships are what's required here, especially because on this show we have fallen out from time to time because we have a difference of opinion, but we all fall back in again quickly, so I'm not going to fudge it here. That is the most ridiculous, rubbish side I have ever seen selected. The remit was pick them on their performances this season, and Ruffy has picked 5 or 6 players there who just haven't kicked a ball. I'm sure you'll agree with me on that. And now here's my selection. Let's see if it stands up to the scrutiny before we get to Gordon's. Alexander, about to be offered a new contract, superb. Patterson, Bristol City are interested in him. Augustine, maybe a weak link there. I could have gone for Ozturk. Zviachenko, worthy of it. Tierney's a shoe-in. Hayes is the only real talented player that can change things at Aberdeen. Kenny McLean, I think, in the Scotland squad speaks for itself. Near Beaton, faded at the end, but still worthy of his place. Greg Stewart, just superb for Dundee. Kane Hemmings, you can't argue with it, and Lee Griffiths. I think that stands up a little bit better than yours, Ruffy, to be perfectly honest with you.
Stands up because you've got 6 players that I picked.
And your other 4 were completely ridiculous.
Yes.
Gordon, your 11, give us your thoughts on this.
Well, I was competing with some of the ones you had, Peter, but I thought McGovern in goals was outstanding. He's also done well for Ireland. The rest of the team, Quinn and Ozturk. Quinn, I think, has been really good in the games I've seen him playing. Tierney, we've all gone for him. Hayes is an easy one to pick. Vigurs, for me, I thought I had to have an Inverness player in there. Young Crawford, I thought, was a tremendous player this season, and I'm surprised nobody's come in for him yet. The 2 strikers were quite easy to go with, I think, the goal scoring. But the one Pearson, I thought, just because in games I saw him playing, I still feel he's got a lot to offer as an outstanding player. So that's why I've gone with that lineup.
Yeah, okay. Possibly, I think we might have looked and questioned Vigurs and Crawford because Crawford dipped a wee bit. Vigurs, though, scored some goals as well, Gordon. Maka, if Ruffy's was flawed, let's have a look at yours to see if we can pick holes in it. Can you explain it?
Well, McGovern, because he's a goalkeeper. Logan, because he's a right back. So I just think Ozturk. No, I like. Listen, I've always been on this programme season. I like Crawford.
Yeah.
He should be higher.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's it.
Yep, there
As
you
you
are.
can see,
You and I have agreed with 8.
I
think we could-
That's because it's in class when you hide. You got to hide your.
Well,
Hide your paper.
I think the good thing about it, when we were picking our team of the year, we tried to kind of back it up there with various statements on the performances. But Macca's statement was, "So there you go, that's it." So take it like it,
McGovern, because the goalkeeper, he
like
can't
it
get
or
better than
lump. You can't
that.
get any better than
I can
that.
argue that you ate the ones I picked.
Two legs, 2 arms. What more do you need for a goalkeeper? So there you have the team of the year. Now what about Gordon Strachan? He has to look a little bit more in depth than possibly some of our team managed to do there. But Gordon Strachan has picked a Scotland squad for the 2 friendlies against Italy and France. Gordon Smith, as I look at that Scotland squad and see some of the players. Now, there's no point in slating the manager because some players are quite honestly going to have a rest. So he's looking at other players to get in there and try and impress Gordon in these 2 friendlies.
Yeah, I think that a lot of these players have played regularly, and some there's 1 or 2 new ones have come in. Barry Mackay's obviously come in. Finally, he's been picked. He's got Lee Wallace in there. But overall, the team, and Callum Patterson's a new one as well. But overall, most of them are experienced. They've been there for a while, and I think you can't really argue. It's a big squad, to be fair, but you can't really argue with the players. The only one I would say maybe it should have been there is Jordan Rhodes.
That's the one I would argue with. It's the only one. He's scoring goals for fun.
Yeah.
5 in the last 8.
Yeah, so you just look at the strikers and you think, well, who's going to score more goals than him? We're crying out, we're not in the major championship this year because we didn't score enough goals. But you still get Stephen Fletcher. I just don't. I can understand taking him, but you've got to have someone that's on. Rhodes is on fire. I mean, when it doesn't matter you're playing the championship or not. And you made a good point. I said to you, he doesn't like him because he can't play on his own. But Gordon will tell you, somebody was doing that.
We looked at this. I looked at the stats. I was a discussion with the people called Prozone who do all stats, and I said if I was looking for a player in English League One, and I said I was looking for a striker, I said. And so what stats do you want to know about? And I said, well, the most goals per chance, the most assists, and the highest work rate, and they come back up with all the stats. And the same player was the top of each list, Peter. It was Jordan Rhodes.
Yeah.
And I think that for me that actually made him just that boy's a top player.
Should we be reading into it too much, Ruffy, on this? Sometimes there's always a backstory or an incident or
always
something that we're not privy to.
Well, there's always. You would like to think that there are telephone communication with players, like leaving out Griffiths. You would like to think there'd be a telephone call to say, "Look, Lee, this is why you're not in it." And I've already stated in my case, if I was Lee Griffiths, I would say, well, I want to be in it. I want to go. I don't care how tired you think I am. I want to prove to you that I'm going to be the #1 striker when you pick your first team. If you don't let me go and play in these 2 games, I can't prove to you that I can do this job. So sitting in the house isn't going to help me. But as you say, there might be something else in between. Maybe he's got a niggling injury. Maybe he needs to rest. But for me, Griffiths and Rhodes are the 2.
I think the 2
because
goals.
that squad is the squad that failed last year. That squad took us to 4th in the section. So
and the majority of it, majority of it.
And if you looked at the squad, I think we would all, if we picked out the best 11 that's going to start the game, I think don't think we'd be far away. So Gordon will have to come up with something that just gets us over the line that never got us over the last time.
Could you come up with 2 or 3 players then that you think are going to change your fortune? I've always thought, I mean, remember, it's only friendlies, but I've always thought he's going to add 1, 2, maybe 3 at a push from that team that failed because we don't have other people really pushing.
Yeah. I still think the problem area, I mean, I know that they're decent players, but the problem area is still centre-back for Scotland. I think that's a problem area. And maybe striker too in terms of how we play, because we've got in midfield, we've got a lot of strength there, a lot of talent, and I've said it before, and I'll make the point again. I'm still annoyed we didn't qualify because I still think Northern Ireland won their group, and I've got to give them a lot of credit for that, because I look at the Northern Ireland team that plays, and I don't think I would have one player from that Northern Ireland team in the current Scotland team.
I think the big difference, could have made a difference with that squad, not out with Rhodes, is Snodgrass was injured, and I think if he was playing, I think he was coming in, he was maybe the top man in Scotland team.
Yeah.
And I think if he hadn't been injured for such a long time, we might have crept over the line. But I still think it's strikers for me, as I say, because I was a striker, it's I just can't see Byram. And when you're scoring goals, get him in the team. It's all about confidence.
You wonder why the games have been arranged. You know, I know you want friendlies because you've got another tournament coming up. But when it's mainly the same sort of players you've picked there rather than you're bringing other people, why do we need to go and play a couple of friendlies in June? And why are we playing against two teams who are preparing for the European Championship, two top sides? You know, you might be able to judge, but you don't know whether these countries are going to be giving it full out, or whether they're just going to see it as a little tester, just a fitness
training
thing.
match.
A training match, yeah. You know what I mean, Peter? So I don't really know why we decide to do these games.
Yeah, I think Gordon Strachan will look at it and say they wanted to play a better calibre rather than taking easy teams. But as you say, what strength are these teams on the day? Only time will tell. We'll have a look at that. But that's the Scotland squad. Over the weekend, what's on the agenda? Well, we will cast our eye on the three Premiership matches at the top end of the table, which will finish the season for us. And there is the small matter of the Scottish Cup final. Tomorrow night at a gala dinner, the Scottish football writers will get together with friends, players, managers, and hand out awards. It's always a really good night from what I can remember. And I think Lee Griffiths, again, no surprise, he's going to pick up the award. And the manager of the year is Jim McIntyre, Ruffy.
Yeah, and we keep talking about when the votes go in. He was the man. He was the man who's done everything with the cup, the top six. If it had been the end of the season and Mark Warburton wins the Scottish Cup, you know, I think we would have to agree that he would be the manager of the year. But that's the way it is, and Jim's won it, and quite rightly so. I think he's transformed that Ross County side. He's got a philosophy up there of the kind of player he wants to be on his side. Then it's completely different for the previous managers who were bringing 7 in 6 months, getting rid of them, bringing another 6 in. He's now got a settled team, and he'll, like everybody else, will want to grow on that. He'll want to try and get another couple of players in, and certainly we're led to believe that they are throwing money at it to get players up there. That's why there's players leaving Partick Thistle to go to Ross County, because they'll see that they want to build on what they've got.
As far as Lee Griffiths is concerned, I think we've ran out of superlatives for him. 40 goals. You just wonder where Celtic would have been without his goals.
Oh yeah, I mean, a lot of crucial goals he scored there, absolutely right. And even to get 40, I mean, I think deserves all the credit. I mean, that's a fantastic scoring record for a season. I know we've been talking earlier on about Suarez. He's in the 50s at the moment, but he's playing in the Barcelona team. And Lee Griffiths isn't. He's not surrounded by the players that Suarez is, and to score 40 goals, and a lot of them were individual goals too. You know, it's not as if they've been just set up for him and he's just tap-ins or whatever. He scored a lot of good goals and headers, shots from outside the box and all that. So I think this has been his best season, I think.
Well, I think to go back to Scotland as well, when Gordon says he's not ready for that step up, and I'm thinking, how do you know until you play? You know, until you get a chance to play against, not a friendly, try them, you know, and win a game. You've got to trust them. Sometimes you've got to trust people.
Can I make a statement to you, Mac?
Do you think he's not good enough, do you?
No, I'm not. Listen, the lad scored 40 goals. There is no argument with the stats. There's probably a debate over the standard of football that he's playing in at the moment, and the opposition. I'm not going down the John Collins route that they're all too quick in thinking. I'm going to ask you this: is he in your top 20 strikers of all time at Celtic?
No. But I'm talking about the now and today's, the here and now. He's going to go, and until you play him and it's for a Scotland team, you'll not know if he can step up.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You'll not know the guy. He's worth a chance. He deserves a chance.
I don't think anybody's debating that now, Gordon. I think Mac is right. I think he is worthy of it, and I think he's almost really kind of thrown the gauntlet down to Gordon Strachan, as if to say, well, listen, if Barry Mackay and Lee Wallace have impressed you in a game that Rangers defeated Celtic, this guy scored 40 goals. There's no argument here. You know, and especially as Ruffy said, if it's a team that's failed, it's time to rejig that team. Yeah, even in terms of formation and different things. I mean, maybe that's why he should have tried it. Maybe, say, you might imagine he had a go with, say, Rhodes and Griffiths up front, just to see how they actually combine together. Try them with different people.
Wouldn't that be a change? I've seen 2 strikers for Scotland.
Yeah, it would be. But
who did you play up front with?
Who did I play? Oh, just Kenny.
Yeah, okay.
But see what you're saying, Peter, about the fact 20 best strikers at Vincent to go through, that would be a good list to actually do, to actually go through that and go how far back would you go and all that sort of thing, in order to put a list together of Celtic's best 20 strikers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
no harm to the lad, I'm not being facetious.
A lot of these other guys, I know, but a lot of these other guys...
He's in a different kettle of fish, in a different era,
yes.
and he's scoring goals in a league that, you know, and many a Celtic team before, not one of these players would have gotten it. That's no harm to the boys that are playing now.
I know what you're saying, but the other side of it as well, Peter, as you would say, that lad is not surrounded by the players that some of these other players were when they got their 30 odd goals, and he's got 40 goals.
I would ask you to look at it. I mean, we're talking about, will Martin Waghorn score the same amount of goals or be as prolific as he moves up a division and the level increases? Will Lee Griffiths be comparable with others? You can only look at him as an individual and try and gauge it to where we are in our standing. We can't even get teams past the qualifiers in European football. We can't even qualify for a major championships at international level. You know, suddenly you've got to understand the picture of where we are in the game. You know, and no harm to the lad. He can only deal with what's put in front of him. If anything, Lee Griffiths deserves credit, Ruffy,
well, I was
because...
going to say that. All credit to him, because he looks like a model professional now, whereas it looked 6-7 months ago as if he was going off the rails. And he was going out the door. I think he told the press that he was like, what was it, a couple of minutes away from going to Hibs on loan. And he went in the next day and had a meeting with the manager, and ever since then it's just kicked in. I think you have to give him credit for the amount of goals that he scored and playing with just one striker. You know, you guys will know how difficult that is. You know, when you've not got a partner up there with you, you know, and to score 40 goals. And I know, and I appreciate what you're saying, the quality's not there what it used to be, but certainly he's taking his chances and he's a better player than what he was earlier on.
Absolutely. It's certainly going to be a gala occasion. They usually award an international award on the day. I'm trying to think of somebody in a Scottish sense that's maybe playing down south that's worthy of it. And I was struggling to come up with one. Ikechi Anya won it last year, and rightly so, because of some great goals that he scored for Scotland. 2 crackers.
I would have thought maybe even somebody, if they'd actually got promotion and they're in the playoffs now and lost last night, but somebody like maybe Gordon Greer, even, who's at Brighton. Do you know what I mean? Because his age is still 35, playing.
Snodgrass was
Snodgrass as well, but Gordon Greer, if Brighton had got up, say.
Snodgrass has only started kicking a ball in the last couple of months.
We're not getting anybody else.
That's not a reason for giving him it.
I would go for the boy Matt Ritchie.
I was thinking that, because he's on the verge of a big move.
Big move, great goal at the end of the campaign last year. Done well with...
Can I ask you something? Is he a regular in Gordon's team?
I think he might be.
I think he might be now. Mike. I think
he's playing almost every game now.
I think. But I think he will be a regular pick going into these qualifiers as well. And he scored a cracker of a goal for Bournemouth.
He's a good player. He's playing a team that likes to play football.
Just on that point as well, who gets goal of the season for you guys? There was a pick from the PFA. Which went to Barry Mackay. There's a pick today that suggests Tom Rogic. Greg Stewart scored a great goal.
Rogic, Beaton and...
Beaton had a good one.
Mackay. Gordon?
It was funny, the comment Barry Mackay made. He says it was great to get the award. I didn't even get the best Rangers goal of the season. That's what he actually said. It was because it was Tavernier got the best Rangers goal.
For the volley.
The volley. So he said it was funny to get the best Scottish goal of the season. I didn't get the best Rangers goal. I think Tavernier would be there. Rogic, as you mentioned there before. There's been a couple of other goals, a couple of Falkirk boys scored great goals.
Blair Alston scored a great goal against Rangers. And the other goal, which I was amazed it didn't get any real recognition, was Greg Stewart's goal. Greg Stewart took 2 or 3 players on a merry dance before he side-footed into the back of the net. I mean, it was skill that you just would die for.
Well, the first time I'd seen that was actually that night at the dinner, and when I saw it that night, I thought, that is goal of the season. But the funny thing was, when I used to choose for another channel I worked for at one time, I used to have to pick the goal of the month and all that. And my argument always was, there's different types of goals. Do you know what I mean? You've got a great shot, you've got individual score by a person who does a great dribble, and then you've got a great move. Do you know what I mean? So it's very difficult to actually judge one type of goal against another when there's different types of goals. Do you know what I mean?
Do you always feel, though, Gordon, it's good to work with people who really like you? You know, the BBC. You couldn't have been happy at the BBC. Look at it now. You've got people who will fight for you. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
People who listen to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Gordon's talking.
Sorry, stats again.
Do you agree with that, though? Do you agree?
Yeah, but
how do you
judge?
Somebody asks you a
there should be
question.
three
If
different
somebody asks you a
judgments.
question, you never just answer.
Right, I do.
Well, give it.
I think.
When somebody asks you a question, do you ever listen?
Beaton.
Give me that.
No.
Beaton. Is that the
Beaton,
type of goal you like?
That's the type of goal I like. Yeah.
Gordon.
Me, I thought the Greg Stewart one. Now I think back to it, that was for me.
Greg Stewart for me.
Barry Mackay.
Barry Mackay. 20 years ago, Ruffy, this very day was a very special day for one member of the panel. Was it you 28 years ago?
Give us a year. My subtraction's pretty poor.
It's obviously
88.
1988.
Oh, 88 was the centenary of the year.
Yeah.
88, Gordon.
I was in Bow. I was playing in Bow.
In 1988?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was the end of my career, so I don't think I did anything special.
You were finished.
Yeah, it was the best year you had. You finished.
Well, it was. You're a hard man, Frank McAvenny. But strangely enough, 28 years ago, you scored two goals in the Scottish Cup final against Dundee United this very day.
I did. Yes, I woke up this morning. It was all over social media. So
yeah. Was that the best period for you, Macca? Was that your best year?
Yeah, I was fortunate. I had 2 great years, but you know, it was to win, being a Celtic supporter, and to win the double in the centenary. Doesn't get much better than that, you know. And I was very glad that I played with a lot of good players, but that team, there was a lot of Celtic supporters in that team. Ruffy, you were there. There was a lot of Celtic supporters in that team. And it did mean a lot of points because we fought like you know, teams shouldn't have. I mean, just when you were nearly getting beaten and all of a sudden turn it into a win, or you turn it into a draw and you get that point. So we done a lot of fighting that year.
And forgive me, lads, I don't want to overindulge in it, but I think it's well worthy of recognition. Apart from being part of a very successful team and you scored a lot of goals, Macca, you were also this week part of another group of very special lads who were saying goodbye to Upton Park. That must have been emotional for you with the West Ham boys.
Yeah, it was. You know what? It was incredible the amount of supporters that were there. It was just, you know, it was great. Upton Park's been there for, you know, everyone calls it Upton Park. It's called the Boleyn Ground. It's Upton Park's the station, but it was just magnificent to see them all out, and you couldn't move in the streets. I mean, it was just, people were there.
Yeah, we saw that with the Man United bus. It couldn't move
do you know
either.
what? I
don't want you to comment on it. I'm only winding you up.
What do they call the park now, did you say?
It's the Boleyn Ground, that's what it's called.
The Boleyn Ground?
Anne Boleyn. It's Anne Boleyn. It's from way back, so...
So everybody else knows it as Upton Park, though.
Because that's the station, that's the train station right beside that.
Yeah. Will you miss the old place?
Yes, I will, but it's, you know, I think it's time for them to move on. And to compete with, I think we've got the right manager, the right players at the moment, and they've got the right owners that can go and put a challenge in for European football every year. And I think they've got to move to do that.
And can I ask you just this one little part on it, because obviously I love you know, talking about players that each of you guys have played with. There were some very special players there on the night. Are you the type of guy who, do you get emotional? Do you shed a tear with some of the guys you were with, Tony Cottee and them all, or are you just no? You know that type of person?
It was good. I mean, it was good to see, you know, Sir Trevor Brooklyn and all that there. And, you know, it was great. There's some great players, and Billy Bonds. Just, you know, there was a lot of great players.
Who was your favourite?
It was great to play with Tony. Tony was a great striker, but Ian Bishop and that, they were all there. There were some great... I've not seen them for years, so as you can imagine, it was a full day.
Was Phil Parks there?
Parksy was there, yes.
Same hairstyle?
Same hairstyle. It's not moved since 1986.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking to the right guy who appreciates that, by the way.
It was Cossack. He done a Cossack. He done a spray, so it's still not moved. He doesn't wash it and I just sprays it. It's great.
Absolutely. Listen, I think you'll appreciate, Gordon will appreciate this too. And to an extent, I'm lucky that I've got 3 guys who've had success with 3 with two different clubs, and appreciated by two different clubs. You, of course, with Rangers and Brighton, Ruffy with Partick Thistle and Hibs murder at Celtic, and Maka with West Ham and Celtic. I'm only kidding you, Ruffy. Anyway,
it's over, beating Barcelona.
Barcelona
3-0. It was over anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Barcelona have won the Spanish title, La Liga. Is this the best Barcelona side ever? They're not in the Champions League final. We're going to get the predictions from the guys on the Scottish Cup final and the European finals as well. Join us after the break on our final one of the season here on the Saturday Football Show. Stick with us. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Saturday Football Show. What a season it has been. We've had some real highs, some arguments along the way, debates about some of the major things that have happened in Scottish football and, of course, down south in the Barclays Premier League as well. And we've had a good few laughs, and certainly when I look at European football, I think this quote is up there with the best of them, Gordon. This is Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who's announced that he's leaving Paris Saint-Germain. What do you make of this? My last game tomorrow at the Parc des Princes, I came like a king, left like a legend.
Yeah, he's very shy and
brilliant.
You know, he's not confident enough, I don't think. You know.
4 years, guys, at Paris Saint-Germain. I'll tell you, you know, everywhere that he's gone, when you look at his record of winning league titles, it is absolutely amazing. I think he must have a claim, surely, as one of the all-time greats as well.
He's up there on the list.
I would put him in the list.
He's up there on the list.
Top 20 or
it's something
25.
I just think if he'd have went to Arsenal, because he went there and Arsene Wenger asked him to go on trial, and he says, Zlatan doesn't do trials.
Yes.
He just wanted him to go for a week.
Yeah.
And Arsenal could have went on and become one of the great teams, because a certain kind of player like him, he brings everyone round about him, innit?
Well, you know, when you listen to some of his comments, Ruffy, at the press conference where he said, I'm 34, I'm just getting started. And I thought, wow, there's a bit of confidence.
As we said, he's got confidence in his own ability, and why not? When you're that good, why not tell everybody you're that good? And he certainly can do it on the park. It's the ones that don't do it on the park that come away with it. You start shaking your head at, but certainly some of the goals he scored are absolutely fantastic.
And can I just say, full marks to the Falkirk fans. The tickets were on sale this morning for the game against Kilmarnock in the playoffs, and they were queuing around the Falkirk Stadium in the sunshine. 5,000 tickets were gone in a couple of hours. I think there's only 800 left of their allocation. That tells you all you need to know about the demand for Peter Houston's side.
Superb, and quite rightly so. So Falkirk, it's been a hard season, but I'm delighted that the fans are going to turn out and back them, and I feel that they're going. I feel that they deserve to go up. So
to get what they have, has been tremendous. To finish second in the league when they weren't predicted to be there was great, and then now to win the playoffs. And get through to play against Kilmarnock, and this is like a cup final for them, isn't it?
Well, I think
the fans must.
The team togetherness is more with Falkirk than it is with Kilmarnock, that's for sure.
Yeah, I also thought that Peter Houston had certainly one of the quotes of the season, Ruffy, when he said, if Falkirk win the championship, league reconstruction will be right back on the table.
You may be right.
Yes.
Probably would have been right, you know, because it would have been drastic, you know, if it hadn't panned out the way it had, you know, and but I think Peter Houston's done remarkably well. He's kept his head all the way through it, and I think he'll be really proud of what his players have done. I think there was a wee glimpse of where they were going when they went to Ibrox. Maybe it was one each or something like that just before, and then they get a decision against them, and Rangers went on to win the game. But there was hints there that the team was growing in strength to strength. Yep, they play a really good brand of football. Give me your thoughts. Who's going to win it? The playoff for the Premiership.
I think it's a difficult one to judge. I think Kilmarnock are not the form team, and I find it very hard. You know, being an ex-Kilmarnock player, I would obviously like to see them still in the Premier League. There's no doubt about that. I want to see Kilmarnock playing there, but I'm worried about them because I think Falkirk are on a high.
Okay.
Being an ex-Falkirk player, I want Falkirk to win, so there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you turn up and sign for a day?
I was there for a month.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
That was incredible.
Hand back your signing on for you?
No.
Or your shirt.
No.
I'm going for Falkirk to win over the two legs.
Falkirk.
Gordon?
I'll go for Kilmarnock to win.
Is that sentiment or insight?
Sentiment.
Okay.
I'm going momentum Falkirk.
Falkirk to win.
I thought you were going to say a draw.
Okay.
So it's 3. So Falkirk will win 3-1 then.
Yeah, but I think realistically, I think it's a landslide. You're through to the next round. Let's look at the league tables now and see how it all finished up over the course of the season. There you can see it. Celtic the champions, Aberdeen in second, Hearts in a worthy third, St Johnstone, full marks to Tommy Wright, Mark McGee in fifth position, and then Ross County with the manager of the year and Jim McIntyre. In the bottom end, Inverness, Cally Thistle, Dundee, Partick Thistle and Hamilton. I think all those clubs may well have had ambitions to go higher, but will be delighted they're still in the Premiership. And as you can see, Kilmarnock know what they have to do now. They somehow have to lift themselves. Dundee United down to the Championship, and a summer, I think, of discontent ahead in the Championship. There you can see Rangers, the champions, by 11 points from Falkirk, who are now in the playoff. Hibs, can they pick themselves up from the disappointment of not making it to the Premiership. There's Wraith Rovers, who were knocked out in the earlier playoff position, and now their manager has moved on to Dundee United and Ray McKinnon, who will take over that job. Morton, great credit to Jim Duffy. There's St Mirren, Queen of the South, Dumbarton, Livingston and Alabama. I suspect, is it fair to say, Ruffy, we should be able to, at this moment, look on with great interest at what Alec Ray's about to do at Championship level.
Yeah, and I'm sure he is. You know, he'll know he'll lose a few players, and I think it was 4 weeks ago he was already trying to identify players that he's going to bring in for next year. So, yep, he'll be expected, you know, to a wee bit added pressure on him, because the St Mirren supporters will expect more, as supporters do.
Yep.
It's quite interesting when you see the division, Peter. There's a huge gulf in that league, unlike the other leagues, between the top 4 and everybody else. It was quite a big points gulf from Wraith to Morton. So the St Mirren obviously came a bit later with Alec there, but he's got a bit to do to get them up there challenging. Jim Duffy's done a great job, but we're well behind the teams that were in the top 4 there.
Yep, into League One to have a look at how it all finished. Dunfermline by an absolute landslide, way out in front. Ayr United, Peterhead, Stranraer, Airdrieonians, and then in the bottom half, Albion Rovers, Brecon City, Stennismuir. In the end, Cowdenbeath, Colin Nish lost his job there. Forfar finished bottom. Into the League Two, and that quick change tells you East Fife, well done to Gary Naismith and his boys. Elgin City, Clyde and Queen's Park were all battling it out for the chance to go up with East Fife, and in the end Queen's Park prevailed today at Hampden Park. East Stirlingshire at the bottom end will now drop into the Lowland League. Because of that defeat, Macca, against Edinburgh City. Yeah, well, you've got to congratulate Edinburgh, and it's sad for any team. It's sad for East Stirlingshire, but let's be honest, they've been hanging on it for the last few years. They've been, you know, it was just a disaster waiting to happen, and Edinburgh's coming up, new team, new ideas, and yeah, it'll be good for football. I think Mac has summed it up perfectly there, because Edinburgh City coming up with great hopes, expectations, dreams. Yep. Edinburgh City have that. East Stirlingshire are looking and thinking, where do we go from here? I know, certainly, because I say that they're not even getting their own stadium anymore. They're having to, you know, use Stennismuirs, and they will be wondering, because they say they're going down to a level for the first time in a long time. We've seen a team dropping out of the leagues and going down the way, so I think they might have to get new people in to run the club and take it over and build again, because they'll possibly lose quite a few players as well. I think it could maybe go out of business, really, if that's what you say. Yeah, okay. I have to say congratulations to all the respective league champions across all the divisions. Of course, we mentioned Gary Naismith, Alan Johnson, Mark Warburton and Ronnie Dyla. Congratulations to all of them for winning their respective leagues. The playoffs were exciting. I think it's something that we really have bought into, and the fans have bought into it. We just need to come up with more of that. Here's the playoffs from today and how it all panned out. Because there were some exciting games still to be resolved. Falkirk against Hibs last night, absolutely unbelievable. Bob McHugh will probably still be in dreamland with that goal in the 90th minute and beyond, to be honest with you. Queen's Park 0, Clyde 1. Clyde were down to 10 men. In the end, Queen's Park were able to hold on for a fantastic win for Gus McPherson's side. And there, as we were talking about earlier, East Stirlingshire 0, Edinburgh City 1. Tomorrow, Ayr United Stranraer, nicely poised. Is it advantage Ayr for you, Ruffy?
Yeah, but I think United will realise how lucky they were to get that late goal. You know, Stranraer would have went there thinking they could have held on. But I think that'll be a great game tomorrow. I think both teams will go for it. I think there'll be lots of goals. But again, a wee bit of favouritism in Ayr United, having been there. So I hope they win that. Macca? Yeah, I hope they win for Collie, because of being home, and because of that, I just think they've been decent. They've been the best this season. I think they've done well. Yep.
Yeah, they were 10 points ahead in the league of Stranraer, sort of thing. So, but Stranraer did well just to fight their way into that 4th spot to get in the playoffs. So it'll be a good one. And briefly, Scottish Cup final next week. Who is going to be holding the cup aloft, Ruffy? I think again it'd be something dramatic for Hibs to win it. So I'm going to go for Rangers. Yeah, I think Rangers will win it. Who's in it?
Yep.
I think Rangers will beat them.
Rangers to win.
Yeah.
So a treble, Gordon, not the treble, but a treble for Mark
Very
Warburton.
clear, a treble,
Very
yes.
clear,
A treble.
a treble.
A good treble if he wins it, but it's not the treble. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I think great credit to both teams for getting to the final. Just quickly, Ruffy, Liverpool or Sevilla in the Europa League?
Liverpool. I think they've got a bit of form just now, but obviously Sevilla won it twice already. Liverpool.
I've enjoyed watching them play, and I'm going to go for Liverpool too.
Sevilla.
Yep. Real or Atletico?
Real.
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 Okay. Crystal Palace or Manchester United?
Manchester United.
Hopefully Crystal Palace.
Crystal Palace.
Okay, there you have it. Predictions aplenty. There's only one way we can finish this programme. Gus McPherson's Queen's Park are going up a division after winning the playoff, and there is the final picture that you will see on the programme. Well done to Queen's Park, League One playoff winners. They're going up a division. Congratulations to them from everyone here. Thanks for watching the programme. We'll join you next season.